Eyes appeared in the clouds, and then a whole body. These were sky rays. They flew in the clouds so that they were almost invisible. They were watching the city, and in one house, there was a man who was alone, and he was also confused. After all, in his house, there appeared a young girl who was smiling happily. Morning came, and the sounds of a person waking up were heard on the bed. The rustling of the blanket was also heard. It was a man who was already brushing his teeth. He spat the paste into the sink, then began to dress in his clothes. This man is a silver-ranked adventurer named Shinonome Hajime. The man was walking down the stairs, yawning and covering his mouth with his hand. Suddenly, he looked down and his face was puzzled. On the first floor sat the innkeeper's daughter, whose name was Natalie. Shinonome smiled as he looked at the girl. At the same time, he wished her a good morning, which made the girl smile. And she also wished a good morning to the man, and he expected from such a beauty that she worked hard from early morning. Natalie replied that the inn was better when it was crystal clear. The girl added that her father wanted some meat, so he left a request at the guild. Hajime turned around and said that he understood her. He said that he went, and Natalie told him to take care of himself. And in the village on this quiet morning, Hajime went about his business. The man walked down the quiet street all alone, and all because it was early in the morning. Hajime looked up, and then realized something and smiled, lowering his head. Someone behind the man started talking because he seemed to be in a good mood today. He turned to the old cat and wished her good morning. The cat woman thought that something good had happened. Hajime wished the old woman good morning again, and said that nothing had happened to him. The man also wanted to know that the old woman's knees were feeling better. Granny quickly sat down and stood up and said that thanks to the herbs he gave her, she was feeling much better. The man was embarrassed and began to stutter, telling her not to go crazy too much. The catwoman smiled silently and after a short pause, thanked the man. She also added that everyone was grateful to him for visiting their poor village. Granny continued talking and added that there were many things they would like the adventurers to help them with. But there was so much chaos and villains in the world and he needed to deal with them. Hajime smiled awkwardly, saying that he was just happy to help. Granny said that if he wanted to settle down in their village, she would introduce him to someone, and she remembered about Marianne. The man immediately answered that she was 50 and had 3 children, and so the granny, holding a stick in her hands, and Hajime began to disperse and wave their hands at each other. Goodbye. And they dispersed in different directions of the road. Adventurer, what can you think of when you hear this word? About newbies who dream of getting rich quick, or people who are eager to earn money daily. But it was not entirely wrong to think so. If a dungeon appeared in the east, you need to go and search for treasure. And if a dragon appeared in the west, you need to go and swing your sword. Hajime didn't know how to say it, because he was also an adventurer. To be more precise, he was an adventurer in the past. He lived in the slums and even forgot what his parents looked like. All he knew was the constant pain of hunger and a feeling of helplessness. Hajime risked his life for money. Day after day, it was his only option to earn a living. He dreamed of eating good food and didn't want to be stupid. After all, he just wanted to become stronger. Somewhere shouts were heard, until the day he suddenly realized that his stomach was no longer empty. The man raised his head with a disappointed look. He looked at the village he was about to leave, and after thinking about something, he lowered his head and smiled. The man thought that he shouldn't hurry today. For a village tavern, getting meat is a very important task, so he constantly does it. A man was snoring very loudly and also had bubbles coming out of his nose. Hajime went up to the booth where the man was lying and asked him to get up, thus scaring him. The guard was lying in his booth and was surprised by Hajime's sudden appearance, and he apologized for waking him up. But he was going to the dungeon for meat. The guard understood everything and asked him to sign the form. Instantly, the guard thought to himself, because it seemed to him that he would not get a piece of fresh meat. And after the man who was leaving, he began to offer a drink today. Hajime joked to the guard that the granny might be upset. Suddenly the guy got scared. The doors appeared in front of him suddenly, but the only thing that scared him was that the doors were slightly open. The gap between the doors was darkness. Hajime didn't understand the reason for the door being open. After all, the dungeon is a place where monsters live and a place where you can find various treasures. And how it works, all sorts of literate people should have figured it out. Hajime thought about how no matter how much meat he took out of it, it never ended. That was all that was important to him. The man walked through the doors, still not understanding why the door he had passed through was open. After all, Hajime was the only one listed in the log. Suddenly, he saw someone trying to fight the monster. Hajime was shocked and angry at the same time. The man immediately grabbed the child's leg, not understanding what he was doing. At the same time, he asked the child not to disappear. The child's eyes were wide open in surprise. The child said that he saved him, but Hajime was annoyed that she was so carefree when she almost disappeared. In front of him was a child adventurer named Lily. The adventurer girl reported that he had almost destroyed her. The man was very embarrassed and noted that this was the weakest monster she could meet in this dungeon. Lily beamed at him, instantly telling him that he saved her life. She waited for him to ask her name, and shouted that her name was Lily. The man also introduced himself, saying that he was Shinonome Hajime, but the man became interested in the girl's last name because she was an adventurer. At this, he brought his fist down on her head. The girl felt pain and didn't understand why he did that, but Hajime said that it was obvious, calling the girl a brat, and he continued, saying that she entered the dungeon without the guard's permission. Lily let a few tears fall from her eyes and said that he slept so well and she didn't want to wake him up. But Hajime was already so angry that he said that it didn't matter because she could have just woken him up. He also started screaming, not understanding why the child was alone in the dungeon, and tried to find out from the girl where her parents were. Lily let a few more tears fall from her eyes, saying that her parents had abandoned her and she was alone all the time. Hajime realized that the girl was not from the village. She immediately said that she had come here by hiding in the merchant's luggage. The man thought about it and realized that since she was not from the village, the orphanage would not accept her, and if she was thrown out, she would have no choice but to live in the slums. He immediately interrupted his thoughts with others, telling himself that now was not the time to think about it. His gaze fell on the girl. She stood there with a sad face after hearing the man say that they could talk about it later. She also watched as Hajime moved further away from her with each passing second. Lily, without asking permission, ran after the man, trying to find out where they were going. Hajime asked to be polite to him and said that he was going to get meat. Lily, as soon as she heard about this, immediately changed her face. The man turned around, sticking his tongue out at the girl and telling her not to follow him because her share wasn't there. Lily shouted that she understood and that he didn't need to feel sorry for her. The girl ran down the stairs after the boy and thought that it was dangerous to go alone, and she could go with him. Hajime said that he couldn't defeat even the weakest monsters. Lily said that it was just an accident. The man immediately let out a tired sigh, and behind him, shouts were heard that Lily could be useful. Suddenly, a boar appeared from around the corner, grunting. Hajime was surprised that he found what he was looking for so quickly. This boar was taller than Hajime himself. Lily exclaimed loudly that this boar was huge. The man turned to the girl, telling her not to scream so loudly. Lily stopped and something started hissing. The girl was standing on something that made her boots hiss, but her thoughts were only occupied with the fact that in front of her was the best meat. The boar was already rushing towards the two adventurers. Hajime was going to defeat this boar. The huge pig continued to stomp with a loud sound and grunt. Suddenly, the boar's eyes widened and the man clanked his sword. The boy's eyes changed and his whole body was covered in darkness that was hungry for meat. Lily stood there completely shocked, but Hajime had already defeated the big boar. And so, on a typical early morning, Lily and Hajime were already near the river. The girl was splashing in the water with a serious face and suddenly said that she failed because that monster surprised her. Hajime thought about it and realized that she was really stubborn. Then the boar made its sound, upsetting the girl. She didn't expect the boar to still be alive. The guy was surprised by the girl's reaction, but said that the meat would be fresher this way. And while the heart was beating, it was easier to get rid of the blood. The girl was stunned by this and opened her mouth in surprise. Lily dipped her head into the water, which caught the man's attention. The two were already heading towards the guild, and soon the sign was visible to them. One of the workers, Olivia Carmen, congratulated Hajime on completing the task. The girl checked the freshness of the meat, which did not stink. Olivia looked into the cart and saw a girl lying there. She thought he was a human trafficker and told him that this was not for them, but for the traffickers of illegal goods. The man said that she had misunderstood. The girl realized that this was an orphan from somewhere outside. and in that case the shelter would most likely not help them. The man agreed with displeasure. But he understood that if nothing was done, she would have nowhere to go. Hajime looked at the cart with an incomprehensible expression on his face, and told the girl that he was going for a walk, and maybe he could think of something. Olivia didn't understand at first, but then she agreed. The morning was still quiet, there were no people on the street, and Hajime was walking along the path, thinking about something. Suddenly, something caught his attention. It was a well, and that was what surprised Hajime, and he realized that the water supply was still not installed. Suddenly, a scream was heard, a girl asking for help to pick grass. Otherwise, the vegetables would not grow well. The child was arguing with the girl, saying that the vegetable soup was not giving him any strength and that he wanted meat and only meat. Suddenly, a nun named Clesida approached Hajime and greeted him kindly. He also greeted her and said that he was a new adventurer who carried out various assignments. The woman realized that he was the man from the rumors, and she had heard that a good man had arrived. The man was embarrassed by this. Clesida thought that he wanted to offer his prayers. Hajime began to scratch his head, a little confused, and said that he was passing by. The woman looked at him in confusion. Behind the two people, the child could be heard sadly agreeing with the girl. This caught Hajime's attention, who looked at the child sadly, and he thought that they had some kind of problem. The woman hesitated, but said that he was right, and although they received donations and help from residents, life is not so easy. The man agreed and immediately became embarrassed, suggesting that he send them some meat several times a month, and he went on to say that they could take another child in exchange. Behind them, the conversation between the child and the girl continued. The child thought that the beans were so-called fried meat. The girl said that they were just beans. The boy became confused because Clesida began to list demands, namely that he owed them clothes for every season, blankets, daily needs, dishes, and chairs, as well as medicine when they were sick or injured. And if he only brought meat, it wouldn't be any help, because children aren't wolf cubs. Hajime thought about it with a sneer, because he made the offer based only on his own experience. Clesida stared at the boy and thought that the child he wanted to give away was his daughter. He began to deny it, which surprised the nun. The woman continued to guess and thought that she was his friend. He again denied. Clesida continued to find out about the child, thinking that she was from the village, but the man again denied. Here, in order not to listen to more versions, he said that it was a girl he had just met outside today. The nun was embarrassed, adding that he really does care about others, which is wonderful, but they are not gods and are only capable of a little. Hajime walked along the path thinking about the nun's words. He realized that it was true, because it was not as simple as saying that he wanted to help. Looking at the field, the man realized that everyone was working hard to live. He didn't understand why his options were so limited, just as he had been when he sat in the slums, wrapped in cloth. Suddenly he was addressed. It was Oliva, and the man was very surprised. He wanted to know what happened. Oliva hesitated a little and thought that Lily was with him. The man immediately denied it because the girl was with her. The girl was scared and tried to understand where she had gone. Hajime screamed when he realized that she was gone. Oliva immediately confirmed and said that Lily had been sitting on the chair the entire time, but she had received a request from the villagers. After all, a huge pile of droppings appeared in Martin's fields, and perhaps it was because they appeared on the other side of the mountain. Hajime's eyes widened and he suddenly ran, surprising Oliva. The man was angry because he didn't understand why she couldn't just stay put. He also knew that if he didn't do anything, he would starve. After all, he was risking his own life for money. Hajime noticed that it was already dusk, and if it got any darker, he wouldn't be able to see the road. Suddenly, he noticed Lila, next to an animal, a mountain wolf to be exact. He shouted to her to get her attention, but she called the monster to attack, and the man continued to shout at her to run away. The mountain wolf began to growl and open its mouth. There was a loud sound and a crack. Lily covered herself with her hands, but Hajime was already standing in front of her, fighting the wolf. The girl stood with her mouth open in surprise. The mountain wolf scratched the man's hand, and he became very angry because it hurt him. He grabbed his sword and started fighting the animal. Lily grabbed her head and started crying. Hajime shouted at the girl because he didn't understand what she was thinking, since she couldn't even defeat weak monsters. The girl continued to cry, which puzzled the man. She was still holding her head, and her stomach began to rumble. So she said she was hungry. The girl's stomach continued to rumble, and each time it grew louder. This did not please Hajime at all. He was angry and grabbed the girl by the collar to make her shut up. The man gritted his teeth and shouted with a serious face that if she wanted to become his comrade, she had to stop crying. He pointed at himself so that she would watch and was ready to show how it was done. After all, whoever does not work does not eat. She had to go to him and help. Lily was surprised. Hajime shouted that they would carry him to the village and that he would take care of her now. The girl began to cry even more and called the man by his name, which he did not like. Night had fallen. Oliva smiled awkwardly, realizing that the man had taken a completely unknown child as his comrade. Hajime looked at the people having fun together with Oliva. The girl turned to the man, trying to find out what he would do if she got sick and he had no money. He should think about it after all. The man put his hand on his face, asking her to stop. After all, for adventurers, softness and naivety can be decisive when it comes to life and death. In such work, if you are not serious, you can part with life. And that is why it is time to become serious. Oliva and Hajime watched Lily as she ate a piece. After all, the appearance of a comrade would make him become stricter. The girl smiled as she ate a large piece. The man was shocked by her behavior. He shouted to the girl not to choose the tastiest pieces because it was his portion, and he also told Natalie to pour him some more. She was already moving forward. Lily told the adventurer that the wolf was very tasty. Hajime decided that he would think about it after eating and sleeping. He tried to think about it, but a voice started to wake him up. He opened his eyes and didn't believe them. In front of him on the bed sat an adult, Lily, who herself did not understand why she had become bigger. The man was so shocked that he opened his mouth. At that moment, the girl began to shrink. She herself did not understand how this had happened. Hajime opened his mouth, not knowing what to say. Gathering his thoughts, he assumed that she was one of the ancients, but the problem he had discovered was much bigger than he had thought. Lily looked at herself with a surprised expression. The girl was a child of the ancient type, and she was surprised that she had become small again, and that some parts of her body had disappeared altogether. Hajime realized that she was one of the ancients. There are 4 races in the world: human, intelligent but physically weak; beast, strong instincts but stupid; elves, long-lived but lacking ambition; and dwarves, skilled but stubborn. They all live together in cities and villages, but in each of these races there are rare species, such as vampires, werewolves, jellyfish, mermaids, and others. Or rather, those that have ancient characteristics they call the ancient type. Hajime never thought he would meet an ancient guy in Lily's guise. He had met one on the street once. Turns everything she sees into stone. And she was really something. The man thought that the ancients could be dangerous. He should report to the guild. Hajime looked at the satisfied girl who was eating the food. She ate everything too quickly and with obvious appetite. The adventurer thought that she was not dangerous at all. At that moment, Natalie came up and thought that something was bothering him. The man immediately confirmed that Lily was one of the ancients. The girl beamed with joy because she had never seen them before. She immediately became curious about what kind it was. The man immediately answered that it was a kind with a huge body part. Natalie's face changed at that moment, and she decided to ask again, but received the same answer from Hajime, that it was a species with a huge body part. But then the man added that she, of course, also had big ones, but Lily was just something. The girl immediately ran away in shame, but Hajime thought this reaction was cute. But in reality, it was terrible. Lily did not understand what had happened to her. The man explained by saying that sometimes people just want to run. Hajime thought about it and said that Lily ate a lot. The girl looked up in confusion. So the man repeated that the motto of adventurers is that those who do not work do not eat. The girl opened her mouth in surprise and there were crumbs of food on her cheeks. And then she said that she had worked hard today and she had no problems. The man was surprised that she was very confident. After dinner, the 2 people went to the guild. Oliva did not believe that Lily was an ancient type, but she thanked him for the report and also wanted to know about the features. The man repeated what he had told everyone. According to him, Oliva thought he was talking about growing up. Hajime became despondent, and Oliva understood the expression on his face that showed that he couldn't bother Lily in private. But then the man realized that they still didn't understand the reason for his rapid maturation. He turned to the girl, thinking that she might have done something special before turning into an adult. The girl said that she wanted to eat meat. Hajime awkwardly told her to eat something else besides meat. Lily asked him to trust her because she would figure it out. The man, hearing this, said goodbye to her. Oliva cleared her throat and wanted to know what they were doing today. And then she decided to offer to collect herbs near the village and destroy all the demonic beasts they encounter at the same time. He would also have a good reward, and the villagers would be happy. Hajime immediately became embarrassed and refused, saying that they were going to the dungeon today. And then he added that collecting herbs was also important, of course. But first he needed to teach Lily how to fight. Oliva thought and asked for Lily to become stronger quickly, and suggested going to catch slugs. Because it is a standard alchemical material, so many people want to buy it, except that they are inexpensive. Hajime smiled and looked at the girl, realizing that it wouldn't be that hard for her, and that would be her job for today. The girl immediately shouted for him to rely on her. Lily immediately ran towards the slugs, and now 2 people were standing near the guard's booth, who, as usual, was sleeping and blowing bubbles from his nose. The guys started to wake him up. The doors were tightly closed this time, and Lily began to act strangely, saying that her blade was thirsty for blood. The man said that it was too early for that. The girl ran through the dungeon and looked for her enemy, because she was going to defeat him. And finally, a slug appeared in front of them. Lily's face immediately changed, which was already frightened. But in order not to give herself away, the girl asked the man to be careful, because this monster almost ate her yesterday. Hajime told the girl that this was her opponent today. The girl's face immediately changed. She was silent and did not believe what the man said, but he repeated it. And Lily began to deny it, because she did not want to fight with him. After all, it was too early for her to fight her sworn enemy. The man immediately said that this slug was super weak and didn't understand what kind of sworn enemy he was. And if she couldn't even defeat him, she could forget about becoming an adventurer. The girl with a super serious face said that she could handle it, because he was not Lily's rival. The man was sarcastically surprised by her words. And at that very second, Lily grabbed her sword and ran at the slime, screaming that she would not lose. At the same moment, the slug attacked the girl and covered her head. At the same time, it made sounds of water. And again, only Lily's legs were sticking out of the slug. Hajime let out a frustrated sigh and began to tug at the girl's leg to pull her out. He didn't know what to say to her, and the girl sat on one knee, trying to catch her breath. She tried to justify herself by saying that she simply hadn't noticed him. The man smiled, thinking that she had now understood, and tried to give her some advice. But the girl had already run off to another attack, without even listening to the man. The crystal on the stand glowed, illuminating the room. Lily tried to avoid the slug, which tried to eat her again. The man was surprised and thought that even though she did not listen to what was said to her, she still tried. Lily managed to make several swings at the slime, but to no avail. But Hajime realized that she was indeed a stubborn child. She was abandoned by her parents, but even so, she smiled all the time and ate heartily. He quietly said that in some ways, she was just like an adventurer. Several hours passed. Lily was still losing to the slug. Hajime pulled Lily out again, but she was smiling, which surprised the man a little. The girl looked at the floor and said that she was losing again and again, and it seemed funny to her. The man wanted to stop and offered her a bite to eat. The girl immediately agreed and began to smile, which confused the man again. They came out of the dungeon and looked at the mountains with the windmill. The grass rustled and the wind blew pleasantly on their faces. Hajime told Lily that it was a nice view and that the heart could rest here. He usually didn't care about such things, but it really was nice here. He divided the bread in half and told the girl that it was her half, Natalie's special olive bread. The girl swallowed and clenched her hands. Suddenly, she said that she would not have lunch today. The man looked at her silently and did not understand what she said. The girl answered by saying that she had not done anything today, and that's why she shouldn't have lunch, and asked Hajime to eat. He understood everything that she was thinking about, that she should have tried harder. Because she couldn't achieve the goal, she is afraid to take the food. Thinking that she could help, she ate a lot for breakfast and smiled so much. But now, having failed to complete the task assigned to her, she is afraid of being abandoned again. The girl said that she had eaten a lot for breakfast today, and it would be okay if she skipped the snack. Right now, she was desperately trying to prove her worth. It was as if she was telling him not to leave her. Hajime didn't know what to do in this situation. After all, he didn't have enough experience in such matters. In his life, there was nothing between eating and fighting. He wondered because he didn't understand how to win the trust of a child abandoned by his parents in 1 or 2 days. And if he knew, he would become a fraud. The man held out half the bread anyway, asking her to eat it anyway. The girl shook her head and said that everything was fine. So he realized that he was right. He was beginning to think that he should just stuff the bread into his mouth, but he knew that would be wrong. The girl was looking straight into his eyes, and the man was serious. Hajime knew that he was not her father. It was the custom of adventurers that those who do not work do not eat. He tried to make sure that she would skip lunch. The girl immediately confirmed it, but at that very moment the girl's stomach began to rumble, so loudly that the man heard it and realized that it was not that at all, and he told them to go back to the dungeon. The girl was worried about it because he hadn't even eaten. The man walked along, gritting his teeth, and shouted that this was his comrade's custom. What kind of person would abandon his comrade and eat alone? He turned to Lily, saying that this was why she had to hurry and destroy this slime. Then they could both eat. He looked at the girl, who was looking at him in surprise. And then suddenly she beamed, agreeing. In front of them was the slime again, which was bubbling. And finally Lily listened to Hajime, who was telling her to watch him first. He waited for her to notice something that was different from when she fought him. The girl watched and suddenly noticed that his eyes were sunken into his body. The man confirmed it. Hajime wanted to make sure she now knew the slime's weak point. She guessed it was the legs, and the man shouted that it was his eyes. Lily said that as soon as she attacks it, it swallows her. The man said that the slime only pulls its eyes out of its body when it hears a noise. The man threw a stone, attracting the slug's eyes, and told her to quietly sneak up behind the slug, while the slug was distracted by the source of the sound. Then Lily swung her sword and the slime's eyes fell off, and the slime itself spread across the floor. At that very moment, Lily screamed with joy because she was able to defeat the slime. The sun had already begun to set, and Lily and Hajime were heading home, eating bread with olives. The girl was smiling because she could do it. And the man, chewing the bread, said that it was delicious. The girl grabbed the man's hand. He looked at the girl, who was smiling. This made him smile. He thought that she was beginning to trust him. The girl was delighted with the bread, which was so delicious. The boys came to the guild. There, Olive apologized and said that she was sorry because she had not yet finished her research on the ancient type. Hajime thought it was unusual that she apologized like that. The girl was called by the headman during the day, and this is also part of her job, so nothing can be done about it. Suddenly, Lily exclaimed that she had already defeated the slime. The girl began to congratulate her and smile. She was struck by how close they were to each other. The man had just realized that they were still holding hands. He began waving his hand, screaming for her to let go, but she wouldn't. Oliva said she would finish the research by morning, smiling broadly. The man said she could take her time. Night fell, and our heroes were already at the hotel. Hajime dried himself with a towel and thought about how tedious it was. He lay down on the bed and sleepily told Lily to go to bed too. The girl rubbed her eyes and agreed. The man lay and stared at the wall, still wondering what kind of ancient species Lily belonged to. At the same time, Oliva studied books on ancient creatures. The girl found something and read what was written in the book. That in the middle of the night they grow up with incredible speed and turn into succubi. Lily sat up in bed. Her lips stretched into a smile and she chuckled softly. But at the same time, Oliva leafed through the book and was embarrassed. She hoped that everything would be okay with Shinonome. It was late at night, and Lily was hovering over Hajime, looking at his face. She was still laughing, but with some love. And he was lying there, drooling on the pillow, which the girl found funny. Suddenly, Hajime threw Lily off the bed again. She knew there was nothing she could do about it. She climbed back onto the bed, where it was a bit cramped, and sniffed his shirt. She didn't understand why Lily grew big at night. Her face showed sadness, but suddenly she sniffed him again, and her eyes widened. Lily said that Hajime smelled so good, and she continued to sniff him even more. Morning came, and the man said that for some reason he dreamed of a huge mountain wolf sniffing him, and he thought that it would eat him. Lily, however, was fast asleep. After everyone woke up, they went to the guild, where Hajime was told that Lily was a succubus, which shocked the man. The girl said that most likely, yes, she is. The man didn't know what to say, and Lily thought that she was a soup cube. Hajime was lost in thought and realized that the succubus was an attractive ancient type who charmed men. He couldn't believe that it was her, and even though she had most of the body, he couldn't get it into his head. He was pulled out of his thoughts by Oliva, who was addressing Hajime. But Lily was interested because she wanted to know if the soup cube would be useful for their adventure. This made the man worried. Hajime hesitated a bit and replied that their specialty was nighttime adventures. Lily thought that she couldn't stay awake. The man said that she was right. At the same time, the girl had an innocent look that caused some kind of purification. Olivia said they couldn't be sure. After all, it would be best to ask a real succubus. Hajime said he knew one, and Olivia said that was very convenient. And she stopped herself immediately, not believing what she heard. The guy said that there was a brothel called Succubus Wings, and its owner was a succubus, and they had very good service there. And Hajime added that for this reason men take their money and do business with these girls. Oliva looked at him reproachfully. He told her not to look at him like that, otherwise he might get used to it. The girl indignantly said that he was even more useless than she thought. At that moment, Lily realized that there were other soup cubes. The man confirmed with a genuine smile and said that she was an old acquaintance, and he would contact her and see if they could meet. Oliva wanted to ask Lily where her sword was, and the girl immediately started looking for it in her belt. Hajime said that an adventurer who forgot his sword was bad. The girl immediately asked him to wait because she was going to get it. The man looked at her with distrust. Oliva said that whatever the case, the two of them looked good together, and yesterday they even held hands, adding to his words that they were like father and daughter. He asked her to stop and said that she was dragging him down and had already caused enough problems, and now he was also a father. It was no longer funny. Olivia said that, considering his age, there was nothing strange about it, and he remembered his age because Oliva was older. Then Lily was already running and shouting that she had taken the sword and was now hurrying back. Suddenly the girl got scared. Hajime was standing in front of her with a mark from his fist. Lily thought it was an enemy, and she said that she would fight too. Hajime said that women, especially older ones, should never be teased about their age, or the conversation would be short. Lily understood and trembled with fear. The girl said that because she forgot her sword, Hajime had to fight alone. The man thought that she hadn't listened to him at all, but he thought that it didn't matter anymore, and so the man suggested going to earn some money for food. The girl immediately agreed and ran after him. She turned to him and said that he was wounded and needed to rest. There were different monsters in front of them, which Lily tried to fight, but it didn't work and Hajime finished them off. And they came out of the dungeon again when night fell, and so the next morning they were heading towards the dungeon again. Lily stood behind a slime and followed Hajime's advice that he gave when he first destroyed the slime. The man's face showed surprise, and Lily was focused. They were sitting again near the stone, with a beautiful view and eating bread with olives. They were returning from the dungeon, and Lily was shouting towards the guard that she had defeated the slime. He told her that she was a good girl. The man added that 2 more appeared and she lost. Lily said that it was because one of them suddenly fell from above. Hajime said that she couldn't do it without help yesterday either, but she replied that she would succeed next time. Hajime smiled and they headed to the inn. They were met by the innkeeper, Howard Moran, who was peeling potatoes. He glared at Shinonome, who had just woken up. Howard wished him a good morning and remarked that he was in no hurry today. He replied that he knew that he rarely had days off, and he was interested in whether the letter had arrived. The innkeeper said that there was nothing, and the man rubbed his neck, saying that it was clear to him, and hoping that she would answer soon. The innkeeper hung his head in silence. He wondered how the young lady was doing. Hajime thought he was talking about her attempts to become an adventurer, and it wasn't going well at all. She finally started to cope with the slime little by little, but if he hadn't saved her every time, Who knows how many times she would have died. She's such a slob, even though she eats like crazy. And yesterday was something else entirely. The man at the bar grinned, which surprised Hajime. He tried to find out what was wrong, but the innkeeper said that there was nothing wrong. The man still didn't understand anything. Suddenly, the floor creaked behind him. It was Lily, who was sleep-deprived and tired. Hajime said good morning and that she could rest today. She happily asked again, feeling a little dizzy. The men looked at her suspiciously. The man told the girl that her whole face was red, and he put his hand on her forehead, and the girl said that his hand was cold. Hajime couldn't understand what was wrong with her. Suddenly, Natalie appeared in front of them, who realized that she had caught a cold. The man knew it. The girl looked at him awkwardly. She wondered what they would do today. Hajime didn't understand her and said that they would do nothing. Lily interrupted him, saying that adventurers say that those who don't work don't eat. Hajime started to get irritated and asked her to keep quiet, and he didn't care about anything, because today she was resting. He added that she was already enough trouble in her current state, and she needed to take care of her health. The girl agreed, upset. The man looked away in irritation, but then something caught his attention. It was the laughter of Natalie and the innkeeper. He did not understand why they were laughing. Hajime walked along the path and didn't understand what it was all about. At least they could have said why they were laughing. He looked up and noticed something. There were fruits on the tree. The guy realized that it was a yogurt fruit, and they are very nutritious, but he was worried whether a sick person could eat them. The man looked sadly at the tree and was silent. Suddenly, the boy turned his head and saw his grandfather. He greeted him and thought that he was also looking for fruit. He also noticed that the little girl was not with him today. He said that she was resting because she was a little sick. The guard understood everything and was curious about why he was looking for fruit. He said that after all, it was his father's duty. The guard was very surprised. He tried to explain that it was not what he thought. But the guard said that he was looking after her so hard, although it was natural. The man was embarrassed by his words. The guard added to his words that she was like his own daughter. And Hajime screamed. The guard did not understand what it was. The man did not understand, since when he was a father, he is an adventurer, and the soft-hearted always die. The old man who shared rat meat with others. The man who donated money to the shelter. Kind people are the favorite food of the god of death. Hajime was very angry and sweat was pouring down his face. He thought that he had been infected with her gullibility and naivety, but that shouldn't be the case. It's only been a few days since they first met, and they already called him father and daughter. Doesn't that mean that as an adventurer, he has become soft-hearted? And if this continues, he will lose in this death god roulette. Shinonome Hajime. He must get rid of his soft-heartedness. He must do something about this girl. A new morning has arrived. Lily woke up and sat on her bed, knowing that she was definitely feeling better. She was about to go help Hajime. The door slammed and loud footsteps were heard. The girl ran towards the guild and, running up to the door, heard loud arguments. The girl did not understand what was going on there. Peeking through the door, she heard Olivia already say that they really didn't have any tasks for them. Someone started yelling and asking her to stop lying. Someone was arguing with her, not believing that all the tasks in this area had already been completed. Someone didn't understand what was wrong with this village. They were the copper-ranked adventurers, Serge and Orcus. They thought that there was already a high-ranked adventurer here. Oliva said that yes, they had a silver-ranked adventurer. The adventurer started laughing and said that she was lying so stupidly. Sergei said that at least she knew how much silver could earn. After all, none of them would ever work in this wilderness. Suddenly, something caught his attention. Lily was standing there, her hands clenched into fists. Serge didn't understand who this brat was, and Orcus started laughing, assuming that this was their silver-ranked adventurer. Oliva calmly said that she was that adventurer's partner. The adventurers asked to stop lying, because they didn't understand who would want a brat as a partner and what use she could be. Lily stuttered a little as she said that she was Hajime's partner. One of them said that she had something to tell their partner, namely that he not take away their jobs. While doing so, she kicked the girls. Oliva didn't understand what they were doing. The adventurers told them not to interfere, because in their world there was a common thing. The girl started getting angry at them. The girl was angry, but something surprised her. The adventurers wondered what kind of fool had taken this brat as a partner. and they thought that perhaps she was some kind of soft-hearted wimp. One of them said that yes, he must be terribly soft-hearted. But Hajime was already behind them. He hugged these adventurers from behind and greeted them, saying that the soft-hearted one had arrived. Hajime thought about how he had told her to lie in bed and sleep. After all, he wasn't her guardian, so he wouldn't even get angry. The girl was kneeling with her back to him, and he continued that he wouldn't scold her at all. His face immediately changed. He was still standing in the arms of the two adventurers, but suddenly they realized what he said. The soft one. Orcus can't move. Hajime said that he is not a guardian. She is his partner. Serge did not understand what he was muttering. The adventurers immediately felt very sorry. There were sounds of a fight. Someone asked to stop, and if he jerked his hand in that direction, he was immediately interrupted by another, who asked for forgiveness. Oliva told Hajime that he had gone too far. He said that they were just sprains and that they would recover. Oliva shouted that they were already blue and their bodies were limp. They ran away shouting that they were very sorry, and also scared and in pain. Hajime stood there seriously, and the girl put her hands together in a prayer pose and prayed. But the man was silent and thought that they were partners, all because we are partners. He got angry not because he cared about her particularly. Lily stood there, with her head down and her face blushing. Hajime didn't understand what was wrong with her. The girl ran towards the man in tears and hugged him. The girl said the man's name and started to cry. Hajime looked at her sadly, and his hand automatically reached for the girl's head. Oliva was embarrassed at the sight. Hajime said that it was not as she thought, and they were just partners. Oliva was amazed, saying that, my God, what a kind father. The man thought that she was taking revenge for the morning. The girl and the old man watched as Lily grabbed the man's clothes. The old man was amazed at how close they were. Hajime said that it was not like that. In the morning, there was a lot of activity outside the inn. The innkeeper was moving empty barrels. Suddenly, two people came through the door and greeted each other. One of the girls asked if Shinonome Hajime was here. Howard said, who knows, and asked who they would be to him. The girl put her hands to her chest and said that she was just an old friend. The girl was the owner of the succubus wings, and her name was Veronica Berry. She had received a letter from him, so she decided to meet. The innkeeper was surprised that someone would walk around in such clothes in the middle of the day, and he said that yes, he had heard about the letter. He also added that while they were waiting, they could come and sit down. The girl said there was no need to worry because she had brought her own chair. Veronica told the guy behind her that she needed a chair. He immediately understood and knelt down. The girl sat on his back and he trembled, but he shouted towards the girl that he was very grateful to her. The girl became interested in why the chair had started talking. He asked for forgiveness and repeated that he was grateful. Natalie came into the room addressing her father, and she said that the weather was so nice today, so she decided to come. Her father shouted at Natalie not to look that way. Hajime and Lily walked down the street, their gaze fixed on the girls he knew. One of them realized that they were going home. The man confirmed and realized that they were working. The girls said that their clients were mostly traveling adventurers, and Hajime had been so cold lately. They were willing to give him a discount. The man thought they were right. He immediately realized what he had said and that there was a girl standing next to him. He hesitated a bit and said that he needed to feed her. The girl who looked like a rabbit said that it was hard to be a father. Another laughed, and the man shouted that he was not her father. Another laughed, and the man shouted that he was not her father. Hajime and Lily said goodbye to the girls and thought about the discount. He told the girl to go to bed early today. She didn't understand why. The man's thoughts were occupied only with girls of easy virtue. He thought about the fact that the succubus never answered his letter. Lily heard and opened her mouth in surprise. Hajime remembered that he had spoken about him. Well, when they were talking about whether she was a succubus or not. Lily tried to remember and realized that the man was his friend. The man immediately said that she was not his friend. The man immediately said that she was not his friend. And he asked her not to say such terrible things. The girl immediately apologized. There were people standing near the tavern looking out the window and amazed at such a beautiful sister. Hajime didn't understand what was going on, and the men near the window didn't understand why she was sitting on the boy and noticed that someone was coming towards her. Some pig asked the girl how much she cost, and then he laughed, because he didn't think he would meet such a cutie in his wilderness. The girl leaned her elbows on the table and said with a smile that he wouldn't have enough for her. The pig didn't understand what she said, and the girl repeated herself, saying that his money wasn't nearly enough. She looked at the coins the pig had given her and said that the copper wouldn't last even half an hour. He grabbed her shoulder, telling her not to be so impudent. The girl realized that he was an adventurer, but not a local. Hajime understood what was about to happen. The pig swung at the girl, not understanding what difference it made that he wasn't from around here. Veronica smiled and grabbed his hand, and grabbed his head with her other hand, and at that very second she slammed him against the table, saying that she didn't want any problems here. Howard shouted at the girl not to break his tables. The pig lying on the floor called the girl names, but she said that there were already those in the city who provided such services. So strangers like him shouldn't take away their bread. After all, he should have been explained this in the guild. Veronica didn't understand why jerks like him always forgot about it. She had already yelled at this pig. Because she wanted to know from him how he thought, how often did she have to explain it to people like him? The people near the window said that she was of course cute, but scary. The girl put her foot on the lead man's back, and she noticed that Hajime had finally returned. He said that they hadn't seen Veronica for a long time. Night fell. Conversations were heard in the tavern. Veronica realized that it was that same Lulichiga and asked her for her hand, and grabbed her hand. Little Lily became big, and everyone in the room immediately opened their mouths in surprise. Natalie exclaimed that Lily was now so beautiful. The guard was surprised by the appearance of a large body part, and Hajime hoped that she understood something. The girl said she understood and smiled. She let go of Lily's hand, and she became small again. The guard noticed that the girl had caught up with him, and there was no longer any doubt that the girl was a succubus. Hajime drank something from a mug and understood everything, and Lily joyfully exclaimed that her sister was just super and that she made her bigger, and also beat the adventurer. Veronica listened to the praise in her direction, with a smile, and thanked. But the girl continued, saying that since she beat him so easily, it meant that succubi were strong. The girl said that this was not true, and that she was just training. The girl became curious about what she was training for. Veronica said it was because she liked to see men in pain. Natalie and Lily were shocked, and Hajime sat awkwardly. After all, the girl hadn't changed a bit and was still the same sadist. The guy who had recently been a chair turned to the lady, saying that the drinks here were very good, and handed her a bottle. The girl looked at him reproachfully and turned to Rich, who beamed, waiting for an order. She told him he was too annoying and asked him to leave. He sheepishly agreed and said he was fine. Everyone in the room looked at him with distrust. Hajime continued drinking from his mug and remembered what else he wanted to say. Veronica listened to him attentively. He apologized for making her come here. Natalie was called from the kitchen because the food was ready. The girl said that there was no problem because she wanted to come herself. Hajime was embarrassed and said that it wasn't free and wanted to know how much he owed her. She interrupted him and said that he didn't owe her anything. The man wanted to object, but the girl interrupted him, saying that he was getting it. They looked at each other seriously, and Hajime decided to say it straight out. He smiled awkwardly and said that Veronica was a nasty person. That's why he didn't want to be in her debt, so he wanted to pay her for coming, thereby embarrassing the girl. Willie was quickly eating the contents of her plate at the table, and Veronica, laughing loudly, said that even she had pure intentions, but if he said so, then he should pay for the food. He asked Natalie for 2 drinks. Lily wanted to know what his drink tasted like. He said it was too much for such a little girl. The girl asked for at least a drop. Someone said that the two of them were quite close. Lily shouted that it was, but the man asked her not to joke like that. In the attic of the inn, Hajime and Lily were getting ready for bed. The girl was in her adult form. The girl said that the drink was not tasty at all. The man said that she was too young to drink it. They had work to do tomorrow, so he could go to bed. Lily wanted to know what they were going to do. He said the dungeon was about to reset, so they would probably be collecting crystals. The girl asked again, and Hajime explained that crystals usually illuminate the dungeon and they also have one. And he wanted to say about the reset, but he was interrupted by Lily, who was already bored with this conversation. He pushed the girl in the bed, telling her to sleep then. But he didn't understand why she had actually come. With these thoughts, the two people slept and dreamed. Lily was sleeping, drooling. There was a knock on the door, and the girl opened her eyes. She got out of bed, tried to figure out who was there at such an early hour. The girl opened the door with a creak, and Veronica stood behind her, who had already wished her good morning. And Veronica responded in kind. Still not understanding the purpose of her arrival, she started to hoot and then laughed, leaning towards the girl. Lily still didn't understand what she wanted, and her shoulder was exposed because her nightgown had fallen down a bit. Veronica said that she had been convinced yesterday, but she really was one of them. And before she could finish speaking, Hajime came to the door, not understanding why she had come so early. Lily was glad to see the man awake and wished him a good morning. The girl turned to Hajime and wanted to ask him to give her Lilichka. The girl looked at her with incomprehension, and she smiled. Hajime was shocked by such a request and asked her again. Veronica said that not long ago her girls began to retire. That's why he needed a new girl. After all, she had already found someone incredible. The man awkwardly repeated her words, but Veronica was not going to back down, saying that she was also a succubus and she was just a talent. Hajime awkwardly agreed. Lily prayed to the man to do something. He looked at her sadly and silently, and his gaze instantly changed. Hajime apologized to Veronica. She looked at him and said that it was bad that they were so close. The man asked again and said that they were not close. His face was awkward and sweat was running down his face. Lily looked at the man with tears in her eyes. Hajime said that he didn't mean that, but the girl was already crying. Veronica smiled terribly, saying that they were really close and it seemed to be mutual. He asked her not to joke like that. Lily kept thinking that he didn't mean it that way. The girl said sheepishly that if she took Lilichka, Hajime would have to work alone again, and then he would become sad and cry. The man began to get angry, and he shouted that he would never cry. He would even work more efficiently. It would be even better if she wasn't around. The three of them stood in the doorway, and Hajime shouted at Veronica. Lily began to shrink and was already close to the floor, almost falling. The man was embarrassed and no longer knew how to get out of his situation. He turned to Lily, but she didn't listen to him, and throwing herself a little, went to the barrels. Hajime looked at this and thought that there was only a warehouse there. Veronica smiled, looking at the little girl. The girl started laughing because he was such a simpleton. The man started getting angry again. The girl said that she was so sorry, but he knew how nasty she was. But she really wanted to take her. So if he changed his mind, she would always take her. So if he changed his mind, she would always take her. The man didn't know what to say. The boys went to the gate and were already near the gate. Hajime told everyone to gather crystals, and today they will go deeper. So, Lily should not get lost. The girl stood there, not herself, and bent over like a reed from the wind. Everyone stared at her. Hajime laughed and thought that something was wrong and wanted to know why she hung her head. Lily thought she was useless. The man immediately said that she was not. Veronica picked up and said that these men always said such terrible things. Hajime looked at her angrily. Veronica bit her 2 nails and giggled. She went up to Lily and said that everything was fine and she wasn't useless. Raichat thought she was making fun of him, and he said that he was so jealous and asked to tell his secret. Hajime ordered him to shut up and not understand what was wrong with him. In the dungeon, crystals illuminated the way. Veronica walked and talked to Lilia, telling some story, at her age. This attracted the man's attention. He cursed Veronica, thinking that she really wanted to take Lilia. Well, if she wanted, she could just go with her. But it didn't concern him at all. The man shuddered, and then sped up. Suddenly he shouted at everyone not to step on that slab. At that very moment, Lily stepped on that slab. And from underneath her, hands appeared and began to embrace her. Veronica noticed that it was a moving trap. Hajime immediately ran to the girl, and she was already being pulled under the slabs. Veronica grabbed Lily's hand and realized that nothing could be done. The girl looked at the girl in tears. They were instantly sucked under the tiles. The man cursed and was angry. The girls were already standing on the ground, and Hajime realized that he had screwed up. Lily didn't understand where they were. Lily was lost in thought and didn't understand the reason for the open door. She noticed a boy approaching the slime. Lily was surprised by the child's appearance in the dungeon, and she screamed, not understanding what he was doing there. She also added that it was dangerous and he had to leave quickly. At that very moment, the girl was covered in slime. Hajime defeated her instantly. The girl, wiping herself of the slime, said that he was an adventurer, but he was screaming something when he met a pathetic slime. The boy called her a fool, and she smiled with relief. She was an almost 30-year-old adventurer, and she was fighting a mountain wolf. The girl scolded the little boy because she didn't understand what he was thinking. After all, it was too dangerous to fight the mountain wolves on his own. The boy hugged the girl and said that he was hungry. That's why he decided to deal with it himself. He also called her a damn old woman and asked her not to bother him anymore. The girl smiled awkwardly. Little Hajime was eating 2 pieces of meat at the same time, and Lily was talking to Oliva, who was amazed that she had decided to take a child she had just met as her companion. Lily asked her not to start. Oliva looked at the girl silently and then decided to make fun of her, thinking that she was now young. Lily said that it was too rude. Hajime was still eating his meat with gusto, and now his mouth was approaching for another piece. Lily looked at the child with a motherly feeling. Morning came. Lily and Hajime in adult form were lying on the bed. She looked at the person next to her and instantly blushed. A loud scream was heard because Lily did not understand who he was. Hajime woke up and asked the girl because he did not understand why she was screaming. The girl answered that she was not an old woman. As it turned out, it was Oliva's dream, and this greatly confused Hajime and angered Lily even more. Or rather, she was angered by the fact that she was an old woman. The girl's hand is not cold. Lily stood looking at her hand, which was not wearing a glove. Hajime noticed this and did not understand where her left glove was. Lily awkwardly said that she had lost it somewhere. The man began to scream loudly, realizing that it was one of the ones she cared about so much. Lily awkwardly said that it was. He continued, saying that she could get frostbite and told her not to touch the sword. Lily said that she wasn't cold without a glove. Hajime called her a fool and told her that she was very cold. He held her hand while doing so. Everyday life of Slime. Slimy was nice to me. He lives in a labyrinth, and it is damp and almost paradise. Suddenly some sound was heard. Slimy saw that his friend was destroyed by a girl, and recently, this paradise was under threat. The little slime shouted to his friends Slyke and Slaby that Lily was already here, that she had come again. He saw his friends destroyed and began to tremble. Lily was already standing behind him and darkness fell. Little Slimy stood with his eyes closed and heard someone's voice. Someone called his name. He saw Slakai and Slabby, who had their eyes closed. They told him that he had disappeared after all. Eventually, the maze was restored. Slimy wanted to know if that runt had destroyed them too. Slimy said yes, but Slimy knew that next time he would win. And this happened all the time, and all because they were weak. Lily looked at Veronica, who was holding her hand, and Hajime ran towards the girls who had just disappeared under the slabs. The man was angry because the girls had disappeared somewhere. Hajime ran to the tiles that were wrong and started stepping on them too. But it was useless because the tile didn't work. He stopped and didn't understand why he was losing his composure in the dungeon and tried to calm himself down. Richat was wondering if there were any more monsters in this dungeon. Hajime looked at him awkwardly and said that there were 12 underground floors in this dungeon. And even since he met Lily, he hadn't had time to eliminate the monsters on the lower levels. And if they are now on the lower floors, they can meet the rest. Richat understood everything and smiled, suggesting that they head to the lowest floor. Hajime supported this suggestion. If only they hadn't been teleported. The only real danger they would be in would be if they encountered monsters during the dungeon days. Hajime couldn't believe he hadn't thought of that. In his head was Lily, who was happily running towards him. He realized that teaming up with this squeaky girl was not the best idea. The man apologized to the guy, saying that he was a little nervous. The guy said that it was okay. Hajime said that thanks to Richat, he was able to calm down. But he didn't remember the guy's name. He adjusted the collar of his coat and asked to call him Piggy. The man couldn't grab his head around what the boy had said. He didn't believe that he was serious, but he thanked him, calling him by the name he had asked. Hajime realized that he needed to tell Lily not to come near him. The man ran to find the girl because she was also an adventurer, so she had to do something and survive. Lily held a sword in her hands and said that she had not been here before, and also dragged Veronica into this. And since it was dangerous there, she could stand behind Lily. Veronica thanked her. and smiled silently. She decided to joke and pointed her finger somewhere. Lily turned to her, puzzled, and she apologized, saying that she imagined it. Lily laughed awkwardly and stuttered that she would still be afraid if she wasn't like her. But Veronica pointed her finger somewhere again, scaring Lily again. The girl said she couldn't stop and apologized again, her eyes playing a cruel joke. Lily said she was so timid. She apologized again, and she thought that Lily was scared. She said that of course she wasn't scared, because Lily is an adventurer and wasn't scared at all. Veronica thought that she was strong, because fear makes his body and heart tremble. I also realized that he is doing a good job as a parent, and that is why adventurers must be persistent and make calm decisions. A monster appeared in front of them. Lily immediately opened her mouth in fear. Her body and heart froze, and the monster began to roar and emit smoke from its mouth. Suddenly, he let out a deafening roar, and Veronica jumped on the monster and immediately threw him aside to save Lily. Veronica held a metal knuckle duster in her hand. Lily joyfully exclaimed that her sister was incredible and how wonderful it was to be strong. The girl said that she was not just beautiful. Lily immediately found this amazing. Veronica smiled calmly and wanted to clarify that Lily was not scared. She told her that of course not, but the girl asked again, which made Lily a little scared. But she shouted out that she wasn't scared. So Veronica said that she was too loud, and Lily can run from monsters too. Veronica asked her to wait, realizing that she had teased her too much. She had to choose wisely who and how to tease. But as soon as Veronica ran after Lily, she was already running in the other direction. The girl did not understand what had happened, and turned her head and saw something that made her scared. There was a huge cyclops. Lily screamed in fear, and the girl said that she would attract even more monsters. But she was an adventurer. Lily began to wipe away her tears. Veronica looked at the girl and then smiled. The cyclops was still running after them, but was gradually breaking away from them. The girl realized that he was not so fast. Suddenly, a fork appeared in front of them, and the girl was interested in which way the exit was. Lily thought seriously and tried to understand, and then he realized something and shouted for them to run to the left. Veronica didn't understand how she knew to run to the left. Lily began to think, and then she said that it was Lily's adventurer's intuition. Veronica glanced at the girl again and smiled, and then she repeated the words about intuition. Lily thought that there were some problems. The girls ran to the tunnel and Lily said impatiently that the exit should be here. Her face was very confident, and the smile did not leave her face, until she saw an open chest at the end of the tunnel. The girls stood there, disappointed, looking at the chest. After all, Lily's intuition had failed her, and the treasure chest was already open. The girl thought that now was not the time to be depressed. Veronica told Lily to hide in this chest. She didn't understand what was going on with her. The girl hit her on the forehead when Lily said that she would lure the enemy here. After the hit, she did not understand why she did it. Veronica said that they would both hide in this chest, and what would she achieve if she tried to lure him into a trap? Do adventurers choose ways to destroy themselves? The Cyclops was approaching, and the girls began to climb into the chest. Veronica was bothered by Lily's sword and asked to leave it outside. The girls realized he was there and wondered if he had the brains to find them. Veronica knew he wouldn't be that smart after all. His eye takes up a lot of space in his head. And it looks like they'll get out of here alive. The girl looked at the silent Lily. The girl sat between Veronica's legs and was dejected. The girl at first did not know what to say to her, but then she smiled silently. She wanted to know why Lily had become an adventurer, because frankly, she just wasn't cut out for it. The girl sank even deeper into her knees. Lily was still little, and she couldn't know what she was created for. Veronica realized that she was right about that, and she smiled awkwardly again. But even so, she was as much a succubus as Veronica. She thought that Lily would earn a stable living if she worked for her. After all, beauty is a talent, and succubi cannot get certain diseases. The girl listened to Veronica and repeated her words, but remembered Hajime's words that, without her, everything would be much calmer, while he also called her names. She thought that she was disturbing Hajime because Lily had no talent for being an adventurer. Suddenly, the sound of quick footsteps on the tiles was heard. It was Hajime. He saw a cyclops, or rather, a baby cyclops. This made him angry, but at that very moment a large cyclops hand was already flying at him. His blow landed near his feet, but Hajime flew away from him. But he didn't have time to deal with him now. But the Cyclops didn't give up and tried to catch the man. Hajime was already angry. He jumped on the Cyclops from above and shouted at him that he was damn annoying. At the same time, he stuck his head into a stone. The Cyclops was defeated, and the man was trying to figure out where the two had gone. Suddenly, he realized something. Or rather, noticed something. It was Lily's sword. Hajime immediately became angry because he realized that it was Lily's sword and thought that this simpleton was fighting. Meeting monsters in the dungeon, fighting and disappearing. This could happen to anyone, even to Lily. It could happen, and it did. He seemed to reassure himself, confirming his words. After all, this often happens to adventurers. The man repeated his last words and then lowered his head in disappointment. His face instantly became serious and disappointed. There was a murmur in the chest. This caught Hajime's attention and he turned around in fear, trying to figure out what it was. He looked at the chest seriously, and he opened it, seeing Veronica and Lily there. The girl said that it was possible to understand where they were faster. At the same time, she said that he was a bit dumb. Lily looked at the boy with tears, stuttering his name. She bowed her head, closing her eyes. After all, something so small would not make Lily cry, and all because Lily is an adventurer. Hajime looked at the girl with fear and then smiled. He thought that then she would not mind continuing without a break. Lily said that everything would be fine and they would go collect stones. Everyone looked at the flying eye, and soon Lily smiled from ear to ear. Veronica thought, putting her finger to her lips, understanding everything. They were on the fastenings and he was collecting them like giant souls. Veronica looked somewhere and noticed that Richie was hanging on the rope and hoping that his mistress was okay. She smiled awkwardly. Then she said that she didn't understand why he activated the trap and called him useless. He thanked her. Lily tried to remove the crystals. Hajime scolded her, saying that these were too small. The girl apologized. But the man corrected her again, saying that she should hit like this. Find herself, there was not a single crystal left in the corridors. After such a trip to the dungeons, they hit the mugs of drinks, saying that they had worked hard. They were sitting at the table and Hajime was attracted by something. Next to him was Lily, who looked devastated. He thought she wasn't going to eat. The girl said Lily had no talent for being an adventurer and could be a burden. The man asked her to shut up. He took a sip from his mug and Lily looked at him in bewilderment. After emptying the glass, he said that her talent was to smile cheerfully, like a simpleton, and asked her to finally start eating. The girl twisted her smile and did not understand why he did this and that it was mean to say so. He said that she was clearly not a genius. But who knows? After all, Lily might have a talent for adventure. He said it was unlikely. Veronica smiled and realized that she had been rejected, but still a succubus whose talent is to smile cheerfully. The girl laughed at this. She thought it could be considered passing the test. The man was surprised. She told him to be careful, because if he did something like that to her race, she would cast a curse that would make them rot. The man choked, and everyone immediately became afraid for him. Veronica was asked to stop because by doing this she would start a war. Carts with traders were heading to the city. They checked the goods at the entrance, and in one of the carts there was an elf girl. Early in the morning, the birds were singing. Lily opened her eyes and began to stretch on the bed, trying to stretch her back. She looked at the sleeping Hajime. He had his back turned to her, and she remembered how he said that her talent was to smile cheerfully. The girl opened her mouth slightly, and then she smiled happily and lay down next to him again. The man opened his eyes and said that her saliva was cold. He was changing his clothes and did not understand what kind of sleeping position she had chosen. The girl next to him was yawning. The girl turned to the man. Her cloak fell off her shoulder again. She said she wanted her clothes. The man agreed, saying that they were dirty and they had cleaned them. He touched the clothes, which were slightly damp. Hajime was trying to find something. The girl jumped onto the man's shoulder, trying to figure out what he was looking for, thinking that it was meat. He didn't understand who would put meat in such a chest. In his hand was the ball he was looking for. Lily didn't understand what it was and thought there was something inside. Hajime said it was a magical item that had the power of fire sealed inside, and he threw the girl off his shoulder, saying that she irritated him. But she grabbed him tightly, not intending to let him go. He thought that she was a louse. The man said he would take advantage of it and dry her clothes in a jiffy. Footsteps were heard in the hallway. Natalie was humming that today was a great day for laundry. The girl happily opened the door, wishing her good morning and saying that she came for sheets. She saw that Hajime had set Lily's clothes on fire. The girl was very embarrassed. She didn't understand what he was doing. He replied that he wasn't very good at using magic stones. The girl said that she had noticed. Howard was worried. He said no magic stones in the tavern. Hajime understood. Veronica laughed and said that they were angry with him. The man was irritated by the fact that he had been drinking since the morning. He looked up because Lily called out to him. The man noticed that she was being handed clothes. The girl said that Natalie was amazing. The dress had slats on it, and the man was surprised at how well she had sewn the dress. The girl was thanked, and she smiled. But then she said that this was the only clothing Lily had. Hajime was silent, but he confirmed it and didn't see a problem with it. Veronica shouted that he was a complete idiot for having only one set of clothes. The man didn't understand what was wrong with her. The girl immediately flew to Lily, feeling sorry for her. And she still offered to become her worker, but she refused. He did not understand what the problem was, because one set was more than enough, because at her age, he wore rags. He tried to get support for Natalie, but she crossed her arms, showing that she did not agree. But even so, he does not have children's clothes. Natalie also gave away all her clothes. Veronica didn't see the problem and told him to just go and buy some. If he collected stones yesterday, then the dungeon market should be here today. Lily thought about it. She asked him again about the market. The man explained that this market opens during the reset of the dungeons, but he did not know that they sell children's clothes there. Veronica said that she sometimes buys something there. Hajime understood what their plan was now, and he assumed that they were going to the market. Now they had to drag themselves there. And now, on the street, they were already heading to the market. Lily's mouth dropped open in surprise. There were many shops with goods in front of her. She liked the fact that there were many people here, and many different goods. Veronica said that shopping is a battlefield for girls, and she pulled Hajime along, calling him a baggage servant. He didn't understand where they were rushing to. Something caught his attention. There were kebabs on the grill, which smelled delicious. It was these that attracted Lily. They were sitting and already frying their own kebabs on the grill. Hajime liked it. He asked how much they cost. The woman selling them said they cost 4 coppers for one. He said he'd take 2, and he handed one to Lily. The girl said that she had not worked yet today. The man explained that on rest days, you can eat. The girl was amazed, and she said that they should rest every day. Hajime said that life is not that simple. Merchants were calling customers to their shops, but Lily didn't understand why there were so many shops today. The man thought that he didn't talk about the dungeon reset. Adventurers come for new chests in the dungeons, and the sellers target the adventurers who come. Hajime said that he wanted to buy a magic stone for Lily to try using. Unlike a sword, she could be skilled in magic. He told her that they would go get the stone for her. The man turned around, and Lily was not there. He didn't understand where she had disappeared to. Hajime started looking for her, near various shops. Suddenly, he stopped and thought, so he let out a chuckle. Realizing that he was worried about her, he immediately began to deny it. At that very second, he started looking for her again, and then he started getting angry. But then he found her near the bench, and, sweating heavily, he exhaled with relief. Lily was looking at something. A man was looking at her, and they were watching an egg. The merchant realized that something had caught her attention. The girl thought it was something good. It was Lily's intuition speaking. The man said that she probably trusted her well. The girl said that yesterday she was wrong, but she had a feeling that everything was okay. A leg appeared near Lily. It was Hajime, who saw Lily. He realized that she had not disappeared, because he had no doubt. The man saw the egg and tried to figure out what it was. The merchant himself did not know. After all, he had found it during his journey and called it the Egg of Luck. Hajime was confused. The merchant said that if it was true, it was up to the spirits to decide. Lily repeated the name of the egg, and the merchant was amazed at her interest. The man became even more embarrassed, but then turned around. Lily tried to stop him, saying that her adventurer's intuition told her that it was something good. Hajime repeated her words with disbelief, and he looked at her strangely. The merchant asked her to simply trust Lily, and now the girl was standing with an egg in her hands, very happy. The merchant offered a prayer to the spirits, and they could take the egg carrier for free. The girl turned to Hajime, sincerely thanking him. The man looked at her and smiled. The traders immediately began to attack the guys. After all, because of the strange purchase, everyone now wants to shove something. They only came here for clothes. But Lily got the egg, and the clothes could wait. They couldn't let that happen, or Veronica would get mad. It was getting on towards evening, and Lily had a new dress. Natalie was happy, but Veronica thought about it and asked to put an egg in. Hajime came down the stairs and said something to the girls. Lily immediately opened her mouth and ran, trying to keep up with him. They headed somewhere again and were already met by an old man near the fire. They approached the doors, which began to emit light. And finally, the light was fully illuminated. Lily saw the dungeon reset. Veronica wondered why new monsters appeared there and the chests were updated. Hajime did not know. But as long as they can eat meat, it doesn't matter. Lily looked at the man, and he looked at her. But then they all watched the glow from the dungeon. Hajime was pleased, and they feasted near the gate and sitting by the fire. Lily was interested in what would hatch from the egg, but the man was also interested in it. The girl hoped that there was something tasty in it, but she was not allowed to eat it. Morning came. For breakfast there was stuffed meat and baba milk stew. Lily was pleased and immediately began to eat. It was delicious. The girl asked if they were going to the dungeon today. Hajime said it was still being updated. Lily wanted to go on an adventure. The man realized that she was tired of resting. Suddenly, something hit the chair. The girl apologized. Lily looked at her in surprise and told Hajime to look, because this girl uses a stick as a weapon. After all, even Lily has a sword. Hajime looked at her and said that the stick was actually a staff. He suggested that she find out what spirit suited her, and he was about to leave, but Lily stuffed her mouth with buns and said that they would see each other later. They walked across the field and Lily had an egg with her. She turned to the man, trying to understand what he meant by a spirit for her. The man reminded her how he had set her clothes on fire yesterday, and Natalie got angry that he had borrowed the power of the spirit of fire. They cannot be seen in this world, but they hover around them. The girl was surprised, and she wanted to know what they looked like. The man thought about it and began to show. The girl started laughing at him, but he said that within these four, they would figure out which one would suit her. Lily had conceived and wanted one that made explosions. They approached the house where the woman lived, and Hajime explained what they needed. Lily listened attentively. The children in the house looked sadly at the girl, and she looked at them. The woman realized that Lily was interested in perfume. This is such a wonderful idea. Lily tried to figure out who it was. The woman was a lady from the church that spreads the teachings of the sun, and perhaps she would be interested in the stories of the sun that happened many years ago. Lily looked at Hajime, who was showing the cross, and she said that it might not interest her. Even if they were adventurers, it was knowledge that wouldn't be superfluous. Hajime said that these stories gave him a headache. They approached the four pillars, and Lily became interested. The woman began to list salt, gold, one-eyed owl, son of selection, and in front of them appeared a door which opened by itself, and behind it were crystals. Lily opened her mouth in surprise. They looked at the open door, and Hajime said that this was the forest of selection, and now she should go in. Lily would go there alone, and the man would keep the egg. Lily looked at the place behind the door and turned to Hajime. He would come and save her if anything happened. And now she was in for an adventure. Lily beamed and said that she would definitely return. The adventurer agreed and asked to be careful. The girl ran into the forest of selection. The two adults smiled at her, and the old lady said that with the discount for the first opening, it would cost 5 silver coins. Everything around this forest was shining. It was a place with a lot of beautiful stones. The animals in the forest also woke up and started singing, which attracted Lily. She saw different birds and realized that some strange animals lived there, because something strange crawled near her. This scared the girl. The animal turned to her and began to examine her. Its eyes changed and frightened Lily. The beast changed its eyes again, making the girl cry. The girl ran away from him. Those eyes were so creepy. She remembered Hajime's words that he would come and save her if anything happened, and she looked down sadly. Then she screamed that Lily was an adventurer and she would go this way. Suddenly, she started looking around and saw a cave. She climbed up there, and something attracted her. It was a leaf. She looked down and understood something. Tore off the leaf and rolled down on it. The tunnel ended and she came out onto a clearing. She saw the ocean in front of her. A hill had formed in it, from which a turtle gradually emerged. Lily was afraid of her, and she looked at her. The turtle's eyes were black, and Lily tried to overcome her fear by fainting. The turtle did not understand what was going on. The girl grabbed the sand and used a blinding attack. But nothing happened. The turtle squinted and opened its mouth and made a powerful stream of air. Lily opened her mouth in surprise. A drop fell from her and she felt cold. Something appeared on her hand. The turtle left her a strange drawing. The girl was surprised and a door appeared in front of her, which surprised her again. The old lady saw Lily and said, "Welcome back." Hajime was surprised that she came back so quickly. He thought that she had met something interesting. Lily looked at him and said that she met a giant turtle with a mustache in a pool of water. The old lady thought it was a 1,000-year-old gentleman, and it seemed that the water spirits had taken a liking to Lily. And Hajime had never met a worthy spirit. Lily blushed and said that he had drawn her some kind of picture. It was a divine protection. A drop of water with 2 scales. It was a large divine protection of water. This meant that even without a spirit item, she could, to some extent, borrow and use the power of the water spirit. Hajime looked at her with disbelief. Lily got something amazing and the man said it looked like it. The girl's eyes lit up and she said they were going to the dungeon. But the man said it was still being updated. Lily remembered this and got upset, saying that it wasn't time for him to hurry up and update already. Hajime asked him to calm down, because it wasn't going to run away anyway. In the village, at the entrance to the dungeon, many people were queuing up, passing through the security checkpoint to confirm their status. Lily looked at this crowd and was surprised by the number of people, after which she pulled Shinonome to hurry up and find the treasure chest. But the man already understood this. The hero also knew that village adventurers like him had to give the chest to their other colleagues, because at that time they themselves were receiving higher-paying tasks. Lily was expecting a successful trip to the dungeon, while Hajime doubted her ability to reach even one chest, and reported to the guard at the entrance. As they walked towards the dungeon past the fence made of stakes, someone followed them, deftly climbing onto the bars. Sometime later, a slime appeared on the hero's path, which Lily was ready to face this time and prepared to use the martial art of the water spirit. Activating the mark on the back of her hand, the girl aggressively rushed to attack the enemy, but only doused him with a small stream of water. After exchanging awkward glances with the monster, Lily quickly retreated further away while Hajime was watching her at that moment and was sure that she wouldn't find the chest anytime soon. But at the same time, Shinonome, still watching the simple battle, felt that the girl would soon receive a level increase. Immediately after that, the guy noticed how a little girl with a hammer and a bag ran past him towards the slime, and in the process, their eyes met. As the girl ran past him, Hajime realized that she was a dwarf and wondered what one of their kind was doing in the dungeon when a scream was heard from the side. Looking there, the hero found a girl in the mouth of slime. This picture immediately reminded him of the recent situations with Lily, and when the guy, hearing a scream, on the other side, turned to look at how his partner was doing, he saw that she was also stuck in the enemy's captivity and was dissatisfied with the tediousness of the situation. Some time later, in the Gnome district, on one of the streets in a 2-story house, a gnome grandmother scolded her granddaughter in front of the main characters for her stupidity. Having consolidated her indignation, the woman imprinted it in the head of her ward, after which, turning to the guests, she began to talk about how her granddaughter had disturbed them. After that, Hajime introduced himself as an adventurer who worked for the village, and the grandmother immediately recognized him, because she had already heard about him. By rumors, she meant his reputation as a kind adventurer who began to look after a child he found in a dungeon. Noting that he had also saved her granddaughter, the woman admitted that the rumors were true, while the hero himself denied his kindness. While the grandmother and Lily talked about Shinonome's kindness, during which the girl was offered candy, Hajime himself noted that kindness was not the best quality for an adventurer. At this moment, the gnome girl woke up from some stupefaction. Her name was Aniango. After she stood up, her grandmother sighed with displeasure about her. She tried to make her granddaughter understand that since she was a girl, she shouldn't hang around the dungeons and should act like a lady. But Anyango absolutely disagreed with that. After that, she quickly ran away to her grandmother's screams. The woman believed that she had spoiled her greatly due to the absence of her parents. Having learned about this, Lily inquired about this topic and learned that they once encountered monsters, which the main character greatly empathized with. After this, the woman hoped that Anyango would not go into the dungeon again, and she wondered if there might be an adult who would go with her. The next second, she realized that one such person was standing right in front of her and immediately became eager to approach him. But Hajime refused, noting that it wasn't even about payment. At this time, Lily went out to look for the girl and went towards one of the kitchens with a long smoking pipe, running towards its beginning. Looking around the corner of the house, she saw Anyango sitting on the fence and watching something intently. Still worried about the girl, Lily suddenly heard a loud sound, after which she approached Anyango and looked where she was looking. There, she saw with her own eyes how two strong, muscular dwarf men were forging metal, helping each other in the process. They argued about their work, and one even compared his comrade to the grass nipple, after which he hit the metal with force, faithfully continuing his work. The two girls were amazed and delighted by the blacksmiths, and Anyango said that she wanted to quickly become such a strong blacksmith, because she was born a dwarf. Then Lily assumed that she went to the dungeon to become stronger, and thought that it was because she wanted to become an adult as soon as possible, but that was not the case. Everything was much simpler. The girl was sure that by the time she became a blacksmith, her grandmother would have already left this world. In fact, she was already too old, and Anyango was sure that without haste, the whole point of her efforts would be lost. The dwarf girl wanted to show her grandmother that she could stand up for herself. While the blacksmiths were hammering away at the metal, Lily realized that she also wanted to show Hajime her ability to stand up for herself. After thinking about it for a while, the heroine said that she was the same as Anyango, which surprised her, but Lily didn't want to say anything else. So after some silence, the girls realized their similarities, and Lily said that she would ask Shinonome about her friend joining their group, which made her feel like a kindred spirit. Some time later, she and Anyango came to Hajime, who asked where she had been all this time. When Lily wanted to say something, the hero turned to Anyango, remembering her name, and announced that he would begin to accompany her to the dungeon, and asked her not to go alone. The girls were sincerely happy with this turn of events, and even found kindred spirits in each other, while Shinonome did not understand what was happening between them. So a day passed, after which the trio went into the dungeon, to the same place where they stopped last time and where they were attacked by slime. Anyango rushed to attack with her hammer at the ready, while Lily wanted to say something and chased after her friend to stop her from thoughtlessly attacking the monster. The slime, without thinking twice, grabbed the girl again, while Lily was trying to help, and Hajime sighed long before that. Sometime later, armed with a small stone, he told the strategy for defeating the monster, with Anyango herself taking part in it with a hammer. After that, he handed the stone to Lily, hoping that she would show how it was necessary, and she was only happy and inspired by the opportunity to show herself. The next moment, a pebble fell not far from the monster, and Lily slowly approached it from behind, preparing to strike. The girl cut the slime with a deft swing of her sword, still closing her eyes, while Anyango stood nearby and marveled at what she saw. A little later, Anyango herself distracted the slime following a strategy, while Lily watched from the sidelines, hoping for the best. Immediately after that, the dwarf girl crept up to the monster and dealt a quick blow with her weapon, thereby defeating the enemy. After the hunt was over, Anyango turned around with a happy look at Lily, who was also happy about her friend's victory and ran towards her. The girls shouted happily, happy for each other, while Hajime asked them to be quieter. What with a small sigh, he realized that they had become friends. Delighted by this outcome of events, Shinonome thought that although he himself did not understand these warm relations, for weak people like them, such a thing might simply be necessary. Anyango looked at the hero standing to the side and enthusiastically whispered in Lily's ear about how reliable Hajime turned out to be. But the main character was in no hurry to rejoice and agree, after which Anyango asked if everything was okay. But Lily, having come to her senses, supported her words, while Hajime himself was thinking about food. But the next moment, the man noticed loud noises and stomping coming from the other end of the dungeon, and people running past were apologizing for what happened. It was a group of adventurers running away from a crowd of monsters past a Hajime, leaving him briefly stunned. Jumping over the monster rushing towards him, Shinonome declared that he would not give up so easily, and then commanded Lily and Anyoko to press against the wall in order to avoid danger. Lily pulled her friend towards the wall and ran, but she suddenly fell to the floor, losing her balance. While she was trying to recover from the blow, monsters, several dozen times larger than her, were already approaching her, trying to crush her right there. But the next second, Shinonome jumped out in front of the monsters and grabbed the girl, avoiding their onslaught, and then looked at their backs. Calmly exhaling, the guy realized that they had finally left, while Onyango, sitting on his knee, was enchanted and embarrassed by Hajime, who saved her. After that, the men worried about whether she was injured, while Lily, not daring to say anything, stared at them irritably. Both Hajime and Onyango felt it. It seemed to them that it had become colder around them, and the hero was sure that Veronica had participated, or rather, goosebumps from the plans of this succubus. Lily at this point said that she assumed Veronica was doing her business in the tavern, which Shinonome was forced to agree with. After this, the main character ran up to her friend, worried about her condition, and she thanked her as a friend. Afterwards, Lily separately noted that she and Onyango were friends, and told the girl not to steal from her friends. Onyango was a little scared of Lily, and the hero once again felt the presence of a succubus, and could not understand where it came from, because Veronica was not around. Sometime after the girls and Hajime's dungeon expedition, they came to the Adventurers Guild, where a representative congratulated the group on leveling up. Along with Lily, Onyango also raised her level, which she happily boasted about, while her friend was also happy, because together they became stronger. The girls chatted happily about this, and Onyango noted for herself that Lily was happy for her, realizing that she was completely kind. Shinonome was also happy and patted her on the head, which made her embarrassed, but she was still pleased, after which she looked towards her friend. Lily was looking at them with obvious irritation at this point, which made Onyango understand how easily her friend was jealous. Meanwhile, Olivia noted that those who had leveled up could complete the promotion quest and become a copper-ranked adventurer. When Lily became interested in the adventurer ranks, Carmen explained to her that quests and dungeons became available depending on the rank, which went from copper to gold. The girl also added that the promotion task in their area was a quest to collect herbs when Shinonome thought about it, because he couldn't help them. While he was saying that he wasn't ready to let them go, more adventurers entered the guild building and noticed the children at the representative's desk. From the current situation, they realized that Shinonome was trying to stop the children from going to the gathering because of the danger, and they considered the hero a kind person. But the man himself was not happy about this, after which he turned to his partner and loudly told her to stop acting like a spoiled child. He also told Lily to complete the leveling quest and start earning a living for herself, while Olivia tried to calm him down. But Lily herself declared that Shinonome could leave it to her, slapping her fist on her chest, her face glowing with excitement. The girl announced that they had nothing to worry about since she and Onyango were now level 2 and were confident of their success, unlike Onyango herself. Lily's friend looked at them silently, after which Hajime and his partner headed home, and Onyango didn't know what to do. While the girls walked and discussed completing the quest, Olivia didn't understand why men didn't take the word kind towards them as a compliment. After some time, Lily and Onyango got ready to go out to collect herbs, and promised that they would return in no time, and the rest could only wish them to be more careful. Hajime noted that the most important thing was that the girls didn't die, which Lily accepted and promised to pay for his and Shinonome's dinner. But he didn't expect that. Looking at the children, Natalie looked with worry and said that it was too early to let them go on such a mission, and then turned to Hajime. But the hero himself, at the point where he had stood before, was not there. Natalie could not understand where he had disappeared to, and the others only sighed and returned back to the tavern. The girls were walking along the road after some time, while one was chasing a butterfly with a sword. The second was looking at the map trying to figure out where they needed to go, remembering that they needed to go down a mountain path. Noticing a sign on the side of the road, Onyango realized that they had entered the path to the forest, while Lily wanted to see what was behind the mountain not far from them, forgetting about their tasks to collect herbs. Onyango pointed to a sign with the inscription about the forest, Shinonome said that on the map this place was marked for the quest, while Lily was surprised by her ability to read, standing in front of the entrance to the forest. The gnome girl boasted that she had managed to learn to read from her grandmother and began to read that they needed to go along a forest path when Lily forcefully pushed her against a tree. While Onyango was trying to recover from the blow, her friend noticed a bird-like monster not far from them. The dwarf girl immediately recognized it as Suzumatori, who was definitely harmless, but at the same time quite loud. But despite this, the girls did not want to let anyone know about themselves, and passed by her, admiring this meeting with a bird that made sounds familiar to them, coming from the mountain in the morning. At that moment, a mysterious man in armor appeared at some distance from the couple, who looked towards the children for a long time. In fact, it was Hajime in disguise, who couldn't help but notice that it was rather stuffy inside the helmet. Thinking back, the man wondered why he was wearing a helmet at all, but decided it would be awkward to be seen with the children, worried about them. Putting on the Shinonome helmet again, he went after the girls, noting along the way that he was unimaginably cool, while at that moment they were just leaving the forest. Suddenly, they stared ahead. Before them stretched a landscape of stone arches entwined with thick tree roots, under which they walked along the path. Coming onto this trail, while Onyango was checking their route on the map, Lily's eyes lit up at the beautiful view that lay before them. Inspired by her adventures, she decided that she should stop and make a note of it, and then took out her adventure journal from her bag. Bending down to the ground, Lily decided to write that she had gone to collect herbs that day, but forgot how to spell one word until Onyango said that she could do it at home. Listening to her opinion, Lily continued walking while her friend checked their path. But the next moment she suddenly interrupted her, pushing her towards a stone away from danger. After receiving another painful blow, Onyango clarified that she appreciated the warnings about danger, but asked to do it more gently. At that moment, Lily stared at the creature not far from them, which was crawling to the side. When the monster noticed them, he hid in his shell, which Onyango noted separately, deciding that he must not be dangerous since he hid from them. Hearing this, Lily turned to her friend with a long smile on her face and said that the creature was quite scary, but at the same time, cute. Immediately after that, she rushed at it with a sword and began to kick the shell, demanding that it get out, while Onyango was perplexed by such carelessness. While the girl was trying to calm her friend down, Onyango suddenly rose up along with the stone, which suddenly began to move. She tremblingly called out to her partner, after which she turned around and saw Onyango not moving on the back of a monster that looked very similar to the one Lily had kicked. Looking into the eyes of the irritated monster, the girl immediately realized the level of danger and tried to say that she did not intend to kill the smaller monster, after which she started to run. Lily, huddled in a corner and falling, trembled and tried to calm the monster, convincing him that violence was not the answer. When the monster raised its paw to attack the girl, she could only scream and try to somehow defend herself with her hands. But moments later, the attack never happened, and Lily opened her eyes, not understanding what was happening at that moment. At that time, Hajime knocked over the monster, and thus saved his partner from a worse fate, and then caught the fallen Onyango. After that, Shinonome, without saying a word in response to Lily's gratitude, pressed hard on her forehead, being very unhappy with what happened to them, causing Onyango to worry about her. The dwarf girl could not understand why the warrior in front of her did this, but he only remained silent, because Hajime could not reveal his identity. After that, the girls went in the other direction, and were surprised that the warrior was chasing them, especially after what he had done just recently. But the next moment, Lily suddenly smelled the succubus's scent with her sharp nose, and immediately recognizing it, she turned her gaze to its source. Seeing the girl's gaze, Hajime did not understand why she looked at him, but Lily herself laughed with some trembling after that, which made Onyango worried about her condition. Lily was happy that Shinonome was able to catch her and laughed, and Onyango felt like her friend was going crazy after one hit. The monsters from earlier reunited again at this time. After some time, the girls came to a field with growing grass and a scarecrow guarding it all, and rushed towards it while Hajime was still following them. Approaching a flower bed, Lily offered to pick them all, to which Shinonome menacingly began to pull out his sword, thereby frightening Onyango and her friend. In fact, Hajime under the helmet, unable to speak due to the disguise, was irritated by this. A few moments later, 2 flowers were placed in Lily's backpack, while Onyango looked at the warrior and turned to her partner to say something to her. She whispered that they would fail the mission because they had received help from a knight in armor and thought that they should keep quiet about it. But Lily cheerfully suggested saying that they had failed the mission, while looking straight at Hajime, who was somewhat surprised by this. But the girls were glad that they had not received any injuries, and that was enough for them. While Shinonome was surprised, but resigned to this outcome, he decided that when they returned home, he would definitely listen to her story and keep quiet about meeting her. After that, the girls decided to go back while the man denied his worries about them. At that moment, Lily and her friend found something not far from them. It was a doll, the sight of which made Hajime's helmet crack. The hero immediately recognized the Betty doll and could not believe that he had dragged it all the way here, while the girls were looking at it with interest. It didn't take a second for Lily to catch a scent, and she noticed that the doll had Hajime's scent on it, causing him to snatch the doll from their hands in an instant. While Lily and Onyango looked at him with some doubt in their eyes, Hajime, without revealing his identity, announced in a falsetto voice that this Betty was his wife. Shinonome also added that he had come all this way to find her, thus completely stunning the girls. Lily, realizing that her partner was hiding under the armor, clarified this fact, and the warrior confirmed his words and mentioned that Hajime himself had nothing to do with this. While Lily was stunned by this news, Onyango was sure that the man had gone crazy, after which her partner lost consciousness and fell, ending her adventure at that moment. Sometime later, Hajime and Lily came to Olivia, who noticed that the girl was wearing a different backpack. Lily sadly noted that the ribbon on her previous bag had come off, and that day Natalie decided to fix it, and Carmen advised the girl to take care of her things. While she was thinking about her actions, Olivia also added that the girl's new backpack looked quite old. Proudly noted that her interlocutor had a keen eye, which surprised her. After that, the girl boasted that the backpack belonged to Shinonome. She also decided to tell about each stain, from the rat pig, and from the mad crab, and from the three-eyed monster, and from the mini-dragon. Lily enthusiastically added that she hoped to one day sprinkle her backpack with the blood of defeated monsters. Olivia, hearing this, could only advise once again to take care of their things, after which the couple went off to do their business, planning to get to work, while Lily felt a little different than usual. Some time later, Lily stood by the window and looked at what was happening outside the inn, noting that the weather was simply wonderful. The heroine was sure that she and her partner would have a nice day, and suggested going outside, but Hajime said that it was a day off. Lily was too bored and tried to drag Shinonome out to find adventures, but he just wanted to spend his day off in his own spirit. Howard, meanwhile, peeled potatoes next to his daughter, watching the couple scream and curse. After putting the peeled potatoes down, Moran, noting that the heroes were acting like normal again, reached for the tap to turn on the water, after which he noticed something. The last bit of water was barely dripping from the turned-on tap, after which the innkeeper addressed the problem to Hajime, who was surprised by the question that had arisen. After that, they decided that the problem was probably in the water intake pipe, and Howard asked Hajime and his partner to go down to the pipe and see what was wrong. Really proudly announced that he could leave it to them, to which he raised his finger, showing his trust in them. As he walked back to the inn, Howard remembered that his daughter often addressed him in the same way, while Hajime was unhappy with being used as a handyman. Lily interrupted him and suggested that they hurry to the entrance through the well, which Shinonome immediately identified as the entrance. But after looking inside, he found a ladder there, which confirmed Lily's words that the well was the entrance. After which they began to descend there. Hajime was the first to go down, worried that Lily would fall while she was hoping to find a treasure chest. But the hero explained that this was not a dungeon. But Lily hoped that at least the remains of drowned creatures would add variety to their journey, while Shinonome had already managed to descend to the bottom of the well. Lily walked inside the passage, keeping close behind the hero, while he became interested in who was able to create such a passage in this place. Remembering that the creator of the passage even built a ladder, Hajime became even more interested in the identity of the one who dug everything in this place, and already assumed something. Lily timidly asked if there were any dead bodies in front, which made the man think. After that, he suddenly pretended to be a little scared of what he saw in front of him. This made the girl press herself even closer, wrapping her arms around the man's waist, who explained that it was just a joke, but Lily didn't want to let go of him. Some time later, as they walked down the hallway, Hajime turned his attention to the end of the stairs and noticed something there. As they approached the last step, some sounds were heard on the passage to their left, and Lily immediately heard some footsteps there. Shinonome suggested that they might be walking dead, which instantly scared his partner, who began to tremble even more behind his back. But when they turned the corner, an ordinary dwarf merchant, Uga Doran, appeared, who was surprised to see the adventurer. He asked the hero why he had come to this place, to which he replied that he had only come to check the pipes. Hajime guessed that this place was a secret passage of the dwarves, which they make without permission using their instincts to make reliable paths underground. Uga realized that the path they were walking on led to a well and said that this path was built by his tribesman, Garanda. After that, the dwarf suddenly noticed something trembling behind Shinonome and asked about it, in response to which the man told Lily that in front of them was just a dwarf, and a living one at that. The dwarf, who had learned that the water had stopped flowing through the pipes, told them that he had recently checked the operation of the spirit pipe, which Hajime had taken an interest in. Then Uga also explained that the water pipes were almost like veins of underground water, from which the water flowed through the pipes made by the dwarves and traveled all the way underground. But in order to make this water flow up the pipe, the gnomes filled part of the pipe with the element of the wind spirit, in the direction of movement, which is why this part was called the Pipe of Spirits. But Doran also added that the effect of the wind spirit did not last forever, which is why he had to maintain the effect. Hajime was explaining the inscription on the door next to them to Lily at this moment. After the dwarf opened the door with the key, he opened it, and added that he had recently updated the spirit element effect. Continuing the conversation, Yuga asked Lily about her knowledge of spirits, in response to which she bragged about having a spirit mark, surprising the dwarf. Dorn and his companions were approaching the end of the flight of stairs when Lily noted that she could already hear the sound of water, after which they entered the desired room. The girl looked in admiration at what she saw in front of her. A huge monster was lying on the pipe, having broken part of the pipe. Lily and Ugo were stunned and assumed that he was a dragon, and the dwarf couldn't believe what caused the breakdown, but they both thought about it for a bit. They realized the danger and wanted to scream in surprise, but Hajime calmed them both down with a slight movement. After that, the hero explained that it was a magical beast called a water tail, and that due to its body size, it was often mistaken for a dragon. Uga immediately wondered if the creature was aggressive, since he wanted to move it, while Hajime tried to remember what type of beast it was, but then he calmly exhaled, throwing those thoughts away. The man decided that the type of beast would hardly matter if the problem went away after the water tail was dead. After telling the others to hide, Shinonome headed towards the snake, and Lily, obediently moving away with the dwarf, could only wish for him to be more careful. After that, Lily looked at her partners retreating back and thought that he looked quite scary. The girl was worried, realizing that when it came to strong opponents, Hajime always fought by himself, and that she was too weak to help. Continuing her thoughts, Lily noticed how her magical spirit sign on her hand lit up, which she immediately paid attention to. She heard a voice, which she immediately said out loud, in response to which Uga told her that the spirits probably wanted to talk to her, having contacted her through this mark. After that, Lily entered into a mental conversation with him, and only after a moment, she woke up with a look full of enthusiasm. She returned to Hajime, who noted that this place was quite dangerous, and asked the girl to hide. But Lily proudly and confidently raised her hand, and asked to leave the question with the snake to her, which surprised and stunned Sanemi to the maximum. After this, Lily walked towards the snake, while her partner called for her to stop, and then grabbed her by the collar and pulled her back, noting that he had definitely told her to stop. He whispered to Lily that it was dangerous and did not understand what she was thinking, heading towards such a huge enemy. But the girl explained to him that spirits spoke to her. They told her that the water tail was not aggressive, and said that Lily could convince it to go somewhere else because she had the watermark. But the word could did not give Hajime complete confidence, as it was not a guarantee of success, leaving the situation still quite dangerous. Lily, after admitting this, still stood her ground confidently, because she didn't want her partner to fight alone. That's why she wanted to fight too, which she proudly and confidently told him with an inspired face. Surprised by this, Shinonome thought for a while and said that this time he wouldn't be worried if she was hurt again, to which the girl agreed. But Hajime was sure that it would be much easier to defeat the beast while it was sleeping, and did not understand what exactly Lily meant by convincing the monster. But despite his words, the man, denying the fact that he was worried about his partner, was sure that he would kill anyone who touched the girl. At that moment, the water tail opened its eyes and looked at Lily, who simply asked it to leave, completely disappointing Hajime with the level of her conviction. After the girl's words, the snake rose up and glared at her, causing Lily to be horrified and almost cry from how threateningly powerful the monster looked. But the water tail relaxed its eyes and dove back into the lake and began to swim away, while Lily thanked it after him, and Hajime stood there surprised that it worked at all. But before it finally swam away, the water serpent created some glow that quickly flew towards Lily, causing Hajime to worry. Suddenly, a water spirit flower appeared in front of the girl. This plant always bloomed when there was water and was a very rare item. Shinonome was amazed that Lily received a water spirit flower as a gift, which only confirmed her confidence in the good nature of the beast. At that moment, Uga returned to them from his hiding place and noted that Lily had tried hard, and she looked at the flower and was glad that she had succeeded. Hajime realized that there was a prey that he couldn't get by simply killing, as the flower had never dropped for him. Afterwards, Shinonome praised Lily, who was already happy with her success. A little later, they all stood by the broken spirit pipe and discussed their plans, while the man could not believe that Lily had managed to teach him something. Some time later, under the midnight moonlight, Lily, in her adult form, was excitedly examining the egg she had recently purchased from the merchant. She waited for it to hatch and couldn't wait to see what would come of it, since she had received it as a gift from Hajime. Shinonome himself, after looking at her briefly, noted that the baby would be quite a problem, and suggested that she simply make an omelet out of the egg and eat it. But Lily was very outraged by his words, and in no way wanted to allow such an outcome of events, and also could not believe what she heard. But the man himself did not see anything important in this. Lily was also sure that since it was a lucky egg, a dragon would definitely hatch from it, which Hajime could only accept. Some time passed like this, and not the next morning, when Lily opened her eyes, she saw something not far from her bed. There, a chick hatched from the egg with a star on its belly and looked at her, covered in the remains of the shell. The girl, surprised and delighted, hurried to wake Hajime, loudly telling him that a small creature had crawled out of the egg. The man looked sleepily at the cause of Lily's cries and saw a chick staring at him. After some thought, Hajime concluded that there was breakfast in front of him, but Lily immediately refused him. The girl was unhappy that the man about what and thought so only about food, but he was sure that she should not talk about it. But the hero also added that the chick of Suzume, a baby, of the huge birds living in the mountains, with one of which Lily once encountered, did not resemble a dragon. Picking up the chick, the girl admitted that it looked little like a dragon, but admired its cute appearance. Noting that it was cute, Lily said that she would not mind keeping it, even if the beast was not a dragon, and Hajime resigned himself to her choice. After that, they came to the tavern, and the chick was sitting on Lily's head, which Natalie immediately noticed, and she couldn't help but admire the cute look of the little animal. Veronica also became interested and asked Lily how she was able to hatch the egg, but the girl said that she didn't sit on it, not understanding what she was being asked about. At this point, Shinonome noted that girls like cute things, to which Moran didn't respond, as he was waiting for everyone to leave so he could pet Suzume himself. Hajime remembered that he had a pet in the past. This immediately piqued the other's interest, as did the fact that he had free time for a pet, and Lily hoped that the beast was a dragon. The man said that he kept a dog that somehow found its way into the slums, and he specifically noted that the dog was very smart, and that he taught it various tricks in his free time. But Hajime also said that at that time, a period of heavy rains began and he could not find good tasks, and he could not eat for 2 or 3 days at a time. At some point, he was sitting with the dog under a small roof, and remembered that he still had an animal at hand, after which he stared menacingly at him, thereby frightening him. Upon hearing the end of this story, all the girls who were listening were horrified, while the man himself laughed, remembering that the dog had helped him out a lot back then. Veronica then advised Lily not to lose sight of her pet, and the hero himself was choosing a dish for breakfast at that moment. Some time later, Shinonome and his partner went to the entrance to the dungeon, at the checkpoint of which the guard was sleeping as usual. Lily was happy that she had a pet and kept calling him a dragon, hoping that he would work well and be useful. In the dungeon itself, they encountered slime again, and Lily asked Suzumidori to be quieter. But the chick immediately let out a loud cry, and Lily, continuing to make noise, told him to be quiet. And a moment later, she was again in the mouth of the slime. After that, Lily was stunned and turned to Hajime, who explained to her that Suzumidori was too loud, which is why the slime quickly found her. The girl accepted all these words, deciding that this was how it was, and noticed that Shinonome was not angry, and hoped that he even thought that the chick was cute. But remembering his past words and actions, Lily thought about it, and thought that it was quite possible that Hajime was testing the tenderness of the meat by holding the chick in his hands like that. The next day, they went to the dungeon again, but Suzumidori was left behind because he was interfering with the killing of the slime. During the dungeon, Lily defeated several monsters, attacking them effectively and skillfully, and finally gained level 3. Sometime later, they returned home, and the girl ran to look for the chick, who was standing and chirping. But the next moment, Lily noticed the destruction that it had caused, and in the middle of which he himself was standing, and later Hajime saw it too, cursing loudly while his partner stood stunned. But Shinonome exhaled and said that there was nothing to be done in this situation, although he complained that the chick turned everything upside down, calling him a lump of meat. But Lily reminded the man that the chick was called Dragon, to which he waved his hand and agreed, and noted that the dragon even knocked over a vase. Sometime later, at the inn, Lily was trying to cheer up Suzumidori, who was dressed as an innkeeper and trying to carry a tray with a glass of water. But after a couple of steps, the chick fell, spilling water in the glass and dropping the tray, to the girl's loud indignation, in response to which Natalie noted that she was pressing hard on him. But Lily added with tears in her eyes that if the dragon was not useful, Hajime would definitely eat it. Natalie was sure that Hajime was an amazing adventurer, and asked him if he would eat Suzumidori. The man only laughed with a forced smile in response, which immediately destroyed the calm confidence on Natalie's face. After that, she also decided to support the chick's efforts, while Howard only hoped that the hero would not instruct him to cook this beast. Sometime later, outside the village, Hajime and his partner were patrolling the surrounding area, another duty of a village adventurer. Lily, holding the dragon in her arms, told him to work hard and try to be useful, but he only let out a little gas in response. While the girl was slightly irritated and scolded him for not being serious when his life was hanging by a thread, Hajime told her to be quiet. Right after that, something caught the man's eye that made him look surprised, which Lily also noticed. It turned out that Hajime had found rabbit bear feces, which shouldn't normally be found in the mountains near the village. These monsters were aggressive and liked to attack people, so the hero decided that it would be a problem if such a monster made a nest in this place. Having decided to follow in his footsteps, the man told his partner not to leave him so that she would not get lost, after which she quickly followed him. Some time later, they went out somewhere, and Shinonome said that he does not understand such things, and suggested that they return to the guild to report. A little later, Olivia was surprised by the news of the rabbit bear's appearance, and noted that she did not want it to spread, but the hero said that he could not find them by their tracks. He also added that he would look for more tracks the next day, but noted that in this situation, it would be easier to turn to a beast man with a strong sense of smell, which Carmen agreed with. A few hours later, after night had fallen on the village, Hajime was already at home, stretching and getting ready to go to bed, when Lily asked him about the rabbit bears. In response, Shinonome confirmed that they were quite difficult to find, especially since he had only been going underground for a long time and did not have much experience in tracking down prey in the wild. With the dragon in her arms, Lily realized that her partner was also bad at something, and then turned to Suzumidori and said that they should give it their all the next day. The chick responded with a loud chirp without thinking for long, after which Lily told him to be quiet, because it was already night, while Hajime was already fast asleep. The next morning, they went out on patrol again, and the man, while looking around the area, discovered claw marks. After some thought, he decided that the scratches were too small for something the size of a rabbit bear, until Lily saw a frog nearby. After that, the dragon got off her head and ran in a certain direction, and Lily tried to stop him, which Shinonome noticed, telling them to be quiet. He also asked what happened to Suzumidori, whom he called a chicken on a spit, to which Lily immediately corrected him, reminding him that the chick was called Dragon. With a sad face, The girl ran after her pet, shouting after him to wait for her. A little later, going behind a tree, she discovered that the chick had come to his relatives, who were several times larger than him. She was surprised that there were so many animals similar to her dragon in this place, because she did not expect to see them, and Hajime explained that they were Suzumedori. The man also suggested that the dragon had run away, sensing its friends, after which it began to chirp and communicate with its relatives. Loud cackle began to spread around the nest, deafening the couple standing nearby, who could not understand what was happening at that moment. The next moment, chirping sounds came from all directions, completely deafening the adventurers. In fact, it was the Suzumidori network, where they shared information with each other using their loud voices, having a strong sense of camaraderie. After this loud conversation, the dragon ran in a certain direction again, and Lily and Shinonome followed him. After some time, they came to a place that Hajime immediately noticed. There was a monster standing by the river that had defeated another. Hiding behind the rocks, the adventurers realized that they had reached the rabbit bear, and the hero was surprised that the dragon had actually been able to lead them to him. After that, Lily asked if her pet had been useful, to which the hero agreed, noting that the Suzumidori knew everything that was happening in their part of the mountains. The guy added that the dragon helped them find the rabbit bear, which caused the girl genuine joy. But after that, Hajime said that the chick was much more useful than Lily herself. Sometime later, at the inn, Lily was carrying a tray, thinking that she needed to be useful while everyone else was just judging Hajime. Sometime later, in one room, there was a poster of Rashad on the wall, and not far from the bed, a punching bag with a picture of Veronica's face on it. The maid came to wake Jessica, who, getting up, stretched out long, and was dressed in light bedclothes. The girl approached Rashad's painting, wished him good morning, stroked the canvas with her hand, and then asked her maid if Veronica had returned. But the girl told her that she never showed up, and Jessica got mad and hit the punching bag, because Veronica always keeps Rashad with her. After a few moments, she calmed down and noted that she felt like Veronica would soon return back to the city. Jessica Littledart was the owner of the Night Paradise. She remembered that there had been an incident recently that involved her colleague. The girl had already prepared the best adventurers, and was waiting for the succubus to return to finally even the score. Sometime later, at the inn where Hajime was staying, Lily was showing off her newly acquired adventurer badge, which was literally sparkling in her hands. Veronica noticed that it was a copper adventurer's license, and was glad that the girl was able to complete the task of collecting herbs and congratulated her on it. Lily proudly stated that she and Anyango had completed the task together, which was very easy for them. But Veronica, looking away, immediately understood why it was so easy for them. Turning to Hajime, the succubus noted that she had not seen him during the day, and asked what he had been doing. Hearing that he had been working, the girl assumed that he had followed the girls in disguise. At that moment, Lily noticed Rashad's face from below, who was standing on all fours on the floor. Lily asked what he was doing there, to which he replied that he was a chair. When she asked why he was a chair, Rashad replied that it was because he was a pig, leaving Lily very confused. She decided that it was all too confusing and that it was difficult for her to understand, and Natalie advised her not to try to understand it at all. The next moment, the bell on the door of the inn rang, signaling that the Moran family had a guest, who everyone else noticed. It was the deputy owner of the Wings of Succubus establishment, Tanya Shironova, who was looking for a woman named Veronica in the inn. Bari immediately recognized her and approached her with a question about what she was doing in this place and how her business was doing, and Tanya was glad that she found her boss. But after that, Shironova decided to say something that immediately interested Veronica. She said that the establishment Wings of the Succubus was lost. When Bari became worried, Tanya explained that the building was literally physically destroyed, surprising her boss. Hearing this, Hajime couldn't help but laugh, to which the succubus suddenly turned around, clicked her tongue, and clung to the hero, who was already ready to fight. But the guy didn't expect her to come so close, after which she hid her sly grin and began to shed tears. Clinging to Hajime's chest, she complained about how her business had been destroyed, and when he said that it wasn't worth her tears, she reminded him that she had started from scratch and had worked hard. But now her business was in ruins, which reminded Shinonome that she was right, because even in their childhood, they both had hard times. The next second, The succubus remembered the girls who worked in her establishment and learned from Tanya that none of them were hurt. Wiping away tears, she said that was the most important thing, and then turned to the hero again. Veronica said that she needed to return to the city and asked him to go with her. The girl did not have a large supply of money, which left the man no choice but to help her. Veronica, hearing his answer, happily hugged him, and Tanya said that with a man they would be much calmer, so they received fighting force. Right after that, Veronica asked if her deputy had found out who had caused the tragedy, but this issue, according to her, was still being investigated. Nevertheless, the owner of the succubus wings was prepared for the fact that someone had intentionally destroyed her building and was going to show the real hell to the culprit. To celebrate all this, Tanya poured Hajime a drink, and both women stood next to each other, happy for his future help. Natalie, at this time, noticed Lily nearby, who was learning the methods of the owner of the succubus wings, which caused her some horror. The next morning, Hajime stood in front of Olivia, slightly embarrassed that he was leaving for a long time, which would make it more difficult for Carmen to handle things. But the hero promised to return as soon as possible, since the matter should not take much time, and apologized for it. Olivia, in return, hinted that there was a perfume in town called Berry Dream, which would make a great souvenir. Sometime later, the heroes and their companions set off for their destination while chatting happily, while Lily enjoyed the view and accidentally dropped the dragon overboard. They then arrived at the Lana region outpost, and were being checked at the entrance while Lily asked if they had arrived at their destination yet. A little later, they bought a special dungeon map from a merchant and went to one of them, and had fun on the way to the right place. A little later, they arrived at a whirlpool of dungeons that connected some of them with each other, and the adventurers used it to quickly move. When Lily first encountered this whirlpool, she hesitated to enter it, but later she came out on the other side and calmed down, exhaled, and then the group continued their journey to the desired city. Finally, after some time, they reached Yarnago, the #1 underground city in the Arca region. Entering the city, Lily was enchanted by the local views. Standing in the middle of the noisy crowd of the city and the large buildings, Hajime looked up, looking at the outermost level of the fortress wall that protected the city from the dangers from the outside. Shinonome said that the wall, as always, cast a long shadow, but Veronica interrupted him, telling him to stop acting tough, and moved on. On the way, the man said that he didn't even try to look cool, and then they arrived at the red light district. There, Veronica stared in horror at the picture in front of her. The building of her establishment was destroyed to the ground. After that, a girl in a service uniform approached them, shouting that it was forbidden to go behind the barrier, but immediately recognized her boss. Veronica also recognized her as Maribel, and asked about the state of affairs. From her, she learned that everything was terrible. She said that the building was shaking violently just before the collapse, and she wanted to continue. But then she was interrupted by loud laughter from the side. It was Jessica Littledart, who greeted her business colleague and noted that she was sad to see the succubus wings business go down. But Veronica called her freckled Jessie, thus infuriating the girl who did not want to be called that, and even hid her freckles with makeup. Veronica, irritated and angry, assumed that Jessica was the culprit of the destruction and was about to move on to actions that would be unpleasant for her. But she hid behind one of the hired adventurers and told them that it was actually a mist dragon that destroyed the building. Maribel confirmed this, saying that they had received an announcement from the guild that morning that a dragon had decided to rest on their roof at dawn. The mist dragon, which was docile and simply ate clouds to survive, was large and heavy, which caused a monstrous disaster for Veronica's business. Bari, worried about this kind of case, even paid for accident insurance with wyverns, and was unhappy with her lack of foresight. But Littledirt said that the succubus should be grateful, because it was she who gave all the girls from the destroyed institution a temporary place while they had nowhere else to go. When Veronica asked her why she did this, Jessica said it was a deal. She planned to look after Veronica's girls, but wanted something in return. Her desire was to get Rishat. When she mentioned the elf, Veronica called him over, after which she gave him a light slap, which he was happy about. After telling the elf to get on all fours, Veronica sat on him and asked Jessica about falling in love with her subordinate, while the latter demanded that Rishat be left alone. But the owner of the succubus wings noted that Rishat's behavior was not her fault, since he himself paid for it, although she understood the feelings of her colleague. After some thought, Bari proposed a deal where she would consider giving up her shot if Jessica paid for the repair costs, but that was too much for her. But Little Dart agreed to pay half the expenses, but in that case Veronica had to defeat her in a duel. Also, if she lost, she would release Rishat from her service and begin working in Jessica's establishment as a servant. She declared the fourth dungeon of Yarnago, the Altar of Guan, to be the location of the duel, and the winner would be the first one to defeat the middle boss of that area. Thus, Jessica chose the theme of the duel to be an attack on the dungeon, to which Veronica agreed. Although she tried to insist on paying for all expenses, while Hajime and Lily were talking about food. The duel was planned to be a 5-on-5 team battle, with the first team to defeat the middle boss monster winning the duel. Having accepted these conditions, Veronica cheerfully announced that if her opponent won, she would give him her Rishat, mocking her right before her eyes. In the Arki area, in the first underground city of Yarnago, Veronica was thinking about the current situation, which was not developing for the better. Hearing this, Lily said that she thought the dish was delicious, but Bari didn't mean that. She was calculating the risks, because if she won, she would cover half the repair costs, and she didn't want to miss this chance. Hajime, enjoying a delicious meal at that moment, noted that victory would not come easy and simple to them, to which Veronica agreed, since their opponents would be an experienced team from the Guan altar. But all the other experienced teams were on holiday at the time, which the succubus complained about while Shinonome recalled their capabilities. He knew that the experienced team knew how the traps were set up in the dungeon, and also had information about all the monsters there. The men wanted to buy at least the maps of the required dungeon, but Tanya said that all the maps had already been sold out. Veronica immediately realized that Jessica was using her influence and cursed at her, but she did not want to lose heart. Rishat, knowing that if he lost he would leave his mistress, decided to give it his all during their fight. But looking at him, the others decided that losing wouldn't be such a bad idea. Although Veronica still wanted to cover half of the expenses while Lily and Hajime enjoyed their food. The next morning, before the fight, the team of the owner of the Night Paradise with her maid and the experienced team of adventurers, as well as Veronica with the rest of the group, gathered. The two teams met at the entrance to the Altar of Gawain, and Jessica mockingly asked how prepared her opponent was to begin. Veronica, irritated by her provocations, slapped Rishat, despite Jessica, and also said that they had not been able to prepare. In response to the assumptions of the owner of the Night Paradise, Veronica noted that it was not she who made the elf what he was. Ignoring these words, Jessica was confident that as soon as she won, she would free Rishat, and her opponent would work for her as a servant. But Veronica pretended that she had never heard the last condition, and pretended that she had never said that if she lost, she would become her colleague's maid. Lily asked Hajime about the location of Jessica's establishment and found out that it was right in the same city. The girl watched with interest the argument between the two girls, one of whom claimed that she had dictated this condition from the very beginning, and the second that it was unfair. While Lily was inspired, a worker came to the security checkpoint, which marked the imminent opening of the dungeon. Jessica's maid and Veronica's deputy prepared the teams for the start of the duel, and then gave the command to begin the fight. Hajime, Lily, and the dragon trailed at the end, and the girl urged her partner to hurry up, which seemed quite energetic to him, and he wondered if he could win the duel with them. But after that, it seemed to him that he was simply deceived, although he planned to do everything possible. The experienced team of the Altar of Gwen at this time was already in a hurry to get to the boss, and decided to use the shortest route and also give it their all. So, they ran ahead, leaving Jessica behind alone with the trap, causing her to immediately ask someone to help her with it. Noticing her, the team she hired said that she could dodge it if she ran fast enough. But the girl couldn't run that fast. As they broke through, the team that had run ahead activated another trap, and a log was flying at the girl, but Rishat shielded her with his body. The girl was surprised that he constantly put his body in danger to save someone, but immediately after that, Veronica scolded her subordinate for his careless behavior. She told him not to let his desires get the better of him in the match, and Jessica was sure that he was just saving her, although he apologized for not holding back while Hajime watched this one big nonsense from the sidelines. Lily at this moment caught up with the opponents, to which Hajime told her to stop and not to run forward carelessly. Immediately after this, an arrow flew past Lily's head and the body of the dodging dragon, hitting Rishat directly. to which Hajime was extremely indignant. But the girl was confident that she was a copper-ranked adventurer, and that there was no need to worry about her, and then continued to run after her opponents. The experienced group of adventurers ran around the corner, which Lily also wandered to a little later, not knowing where to turn at this turn. When Shinonome ran up to her, worried about her life, she ran in one direction, not paying attention to her partner's words about a trap nearby. Lily came to the statue of the magician and stood in front of it, trying to catch her breath, along with the dragon, who followed right behind her. A little later, she looked around the room again and realized that she had led them to a dead end. But Hajime explained that this was the case with everyone, and she needed to get used to it better. But at that moment, the dragon discovered something and flew away, jumping off the head of its mistress towards the statue, which Shinonome watched calmly. After that, Suzumidori landed on the left hand of the statue, which suddenly dropped down with him, and a loud mechanical sound was heard. A staircase leading somewhere down opened up before the eyes of the two adventurers from below. While Veronica and Jessica were fighting each other, Hajime was surprised that the dragon was able to find out about the secret passage. Lily was also surprised by the secret staircase that appeared, and then they went down, leaving stones so that Veronica could find them later. After the descent, Lily continued to walk ahead of Shinonome, which she complained about, noting that she kept finding dead ends until they turned the corner. Immediately after that, Lily's eyes lit up from the treasure chest she discovered, while Hajime was extremely dissatisfied with the fact that the girl was still walking ahead of him. In the chest, they found a suit and a staff, and Lily thought that the clothes were definitely for more than herself. But with a slight smile, Hajime looked at her and gave her the clothes and told her to put them on. This equipment from the chests of the dungeon, which Lily was happy about. A little later, having dressed in the robe of a novice mage of the altar of Gawain, Lily was surprised. But the outfit, according to Hajime, was the size of the one who first put it on. So the man explained that the size of the object also took the necessary size. It was only necessary to take it in both hands. After the hero helped the girl put her sword back in its sheath, Lily appeared in a new form behind her and waved her new staff a little. After announcing that Lily had now become strong, which Hajime didn't agree with, she hurried off to find the boss. But Shinonome was once again displeased that she was running ahead. After some time, they crawled through a narrow passage and went a little forward, and finally found a level 15 monster, a mythical, fire-breathing carp. Lily, standing behind a column, asked Hajime about the strange, shiny monster in front of her, but he hinted that it was the boss they needed. Upon learning of this, Lily immediately rushed to attack the monster, armed with a sword and staff. But Hajime stopped her, reminding her that she shouldn't have run forward without him. Lily demanded that her partner let her go, but he was not going to do this, because her level was too low for close combat, and suggested that she use magic. But Lily remembered her unsuccessful experience with water magic when she only made the local slime happier and was unsure of her abilities. Hajime encouraged her to try anyway, since she had already leveled up enough since then, and also noted that she was wearing new equipment. Lily decided to test herself while Shinonome himself was planning to deliver the final blow after his partner had done all she could. Immediately after that, the girl activated her staff, around which streams of water and light began to form, and she continued to create a spell. Watching this, Hajime suggested that magic might be more suitable for the girl, while their group of opponents moved on to the final blow, significantly weakening the boss. But at that moment, they were interrupted by something that they immediately noticed. It was a large water wave that flew straight into the boss. While the experienced adventurers were surprised by this outcome of events, the boss was defeated, and they were unable to get their loot and finish their duel. After that, they slowly turned to the source of the magic spell and saw Lily proudly holding her staff in a strange pose. The girl thanked her opponents for the easy victory, surprising Hajime with her straightforwardness and audacity. Her opponents at that moment approached with an incomprehensible expression on their faces. But immediately after that, they suddenly praised the little girl's work. They noted her hitting the boss's weak point, and that it was impressive for someone her age, causing Lily to brag while Shinonome marveled at the opponent's goodwill. In fact, this team of adventurers was famous for their reliability and sisterly relations. At this moment, Veronica was climbing out of the tight hole, still grappling with Jessica. After which, they noticed the defeated boss. Running up to the groups, they wanted to find out who was the winner in the end, in response to which Lily proudly raised her staff up above her head. Veronica joyfully lifted the girl in her arms, celebrating the victory, while Jessica was disappointed with her loss. Thus, Tanya announced that Veronica was the winner of their duel, which caused the owner of the Night Paradise to plunge into deep sadness while the heroes celebrated their victory. Veronica was glad to have paid for the repairs and thanked the heroes, who did not admit that one of them had won, after which they remembered Rashid, who at that moment had fallen into a trap. Sometime later, in the red light district, Hajime was surrounded by laughing girls. Lily looked on from the side, displeased with the girls swarming her partner. She confidently pulled him out of their hands and called him to go for souvenirs, reminding him that they were leaving at night. While she was urging him to move faster, the girls watched her behavior with a slight smile. A little later, in one of the areas of the city, Hajime was walking with Lily and complaining that she had ruined his pleasure while she was still unhappy. Suddenly, the man noticed the perfume that Olivia was talking about and complained about its high price. The boy, who grew up in the slums, did not understand why smelly water was so expensive. After some time, he bought perfume, as well as a bottle of alcohol, and walked down the street with a bag together with Lily, remembering the slums. The girl misunderstood him and thought that they were going after the slugs, but she was wrong. Hajime said that he was born in the slums and wanted to visit a certain grave, since he had already passed by that place. In response to Lily's questions, he said that the grave belonged to his companions. He noted separately, with a laugh in his voice, that he had never even seen his parents in person. As they walked, Lily offered to be his mother for a day, but the man quickly refused. After a while, they came to a slum area that was strikingly different from the other areas. Lily felt the gaze of several vagabonds on the village and told her partner about it, but he explained that they were not looking at her. Shinonome also explained that the vagabonds were looking at the delicious-looking dragon in her hands. Upon hearing this, Lily declared that her pet was not food and hissed at everyone like a cat. After that, she noticed one of the tramps was selling his goods on the ground. Lily immediately drew Hajime's attention to the fact that someone was selling something in this place. After looking closely at the goods lying on the cloth, the girl immediately understood everything and was disappointed. She noted that the tramp was selling trash, and Hajime laughed at Pomoji, who was a slum dweller, and brushed the man off. Turning to him, he asked what brought the slum devil back to this place, and learned that he was there for work. The tramp then turned his attention to the girl standing right next to him in surprise. He assumed that she was his daughter, but Hajime said that he had simply picked her up at one point. Upon learning of this, Pomoji said that it was a sweet action on the part of the hero, which clearly displeased him. The tramp even suggested addressing him as the Angel of the Slums, causing another disgruntled curse in his direction. After observing for a while, Lily asked Pomoji about their connection and learned that they had known each other for a long time. The old man told her that Hajime had once tried to steal goods from him, and when he went after him, he hit him with a stone, which immediately surprised Lily. The tramp also said that after that, he gave Shinonome a surprise out of anger, as if he still remembered it all. Lily realized that the slums were a terrible place, but also the place where Hajime grew up. While she stood there and thoughtfully looked at the surroundings, the man who had stolen the dragon rushed past her. Lily immediately called the hero and was surprised and outraged to see that he was only laughing and eating fried meat. The girl ran screaming after the thief, who was rejoicing at the catch of the meat. But after that, Lily got angry and fired a spell with her staff, washing the thief away with water. The boy thus got into the window of the building, to two people who were playing cards at that moment. One of them immediately asked what gang the boy who had burst in belonged to, but the next moment he saw Hajime approaching them and immediately recognized him as the devil of the slums. Hajime also recognized Locken and praised the development of his territory when he asked the reason for his visit, but he was interrupted by his previous interlocutor, with whom he had been playing cards, who was at that moment trying to find out what was going on. When he began to present something to Hajime despite Lawton's words, without thinking twice, Shinonome stuck a shish kebab stick into the bandit's head, and then the man left, asking to convey his regards to Salmon and laughing as he left. Lily looked attentively at the smiling and happy face of her partner as they walked through the slum area. After passing through several courtyards, they passed through the gate and finally arrived at their destination. Hajime explained that it was one common grave, then placed the purchased item near the monument and sat down next to it. At that moment, the children from the slums approached them and quickly grabbed the food and the bottle, which surprised Lily. She asked about these offerings, but the hero knew that this always happened, because he himself did the same. While the children were running away, rejoicing at the food that had appeared, Hajime decided to talk to Lily about how people's bodies were burned after death. He also said that after that, the ashes were sent to the wind, thanks to which people could ride the wind and fly to the sun itself. The man, remembering his friends, thought about where they were at that moment and believing that they had already reached the sun, hoped that they were not hungry. Lily, hearing all this, was a little worried and approached her partner from behind and stroked his head. The man did not understand what she was doing, in response to which she said that she would be his mother for that day. But Hajime again quickly refused. Afterwards, passing by the city wall, Lily said that if she had been with him when he was a child, she would have definitely made his life easier. After looking at her and thinking about it for a bit, Shinonome thought that she would probably only make his life worse. When they passed by Pomoji again, he thanked the hero for the alcohol, and then Lily became very interested in what the children they had met recently were doing. She asked Hajime about it, to which he replied that they hunt rats to earn money. Lily, surprised by this method, asked if the man had done this, but he had been doing it for quite some time. Having learned about this, the girl decided to try to do it too, which the hero was not particularly happy about. But he decided to let her do it at least once, which she agreed with, and they approached the tree. The next second, Hajime kicked the tree, which dropped various insects. One of the fallen was quite fat and would be suitable for their purpose, and the hero told Lily to tie the insect with a rope. After finishing this, he told her to let the worm down from the bridge, and then wait a little while for a big rat to come out. Immediately after that, they were to disable it with a big stone. This way the child wouldn't get hurt, but it was necessary not to hit the hornworm itself. Looking at the cute face of the worm, Lily didn't dare to take action right away, and Hajime even thought that she had already changed her mind. But the next second, Lily became more serious, and with a confident face, was about to do it. The girl planned to feast at night, having rat meat for dinner, but Hajime asked her only not to kill the worm. At this point, Pomojichi offered the guy to have a drink with him, which he decided not to refuse and took a glass for himself. While the children were busy catching the rat, Hajime thought about Lily's recent words, about what it would be like if she was with him during his childhood. The man was sure that life would have been difficult then, and Lily would have caused a ton of trouble that he would not have been able to bear. Looking at the happy and extremely enthusiastic children, Shinonome smiled, lost in his thoughts. He was sure that in any case, he and Lily would at least have a good time together. Sometime later, the group returned back to the village, and sitting in the tavern, discussed the news. Lily defeated the dungeon boss and received new equipment. The usual noise returned to the tavern. Dragon was sleeping, Howard was standing behind a counter as usual, and the others were also busy with their own affairs, and someone was remarking that Lily was amazing. The girl, in turn, remembered that she had brought souvenirs and handed out a figurine of the boss she had defeated, but no one could understand what kind of figurine it was. Anyango, putting aside her extraneous thoughts, decided to give it her all that day, which Lily supported. But Hajime had other plans, and he decided to leave the two girls in the village and not take them with him. Outside the inn, the boy tried to pull away Lily, who wanted to be taken with him. But Hajime had a lot of work to do. Anyango, standing aside, calmed down when she saw Lily's hysteria and noted that nothing could be done about it. But her friend did not give up, because she thought that it was precisely because of the large amount of work that he needed them. When they arrived at the guild building, Lily still didn't give up until Hajime realized that there was indeed a lot of work to do, with Olivia blaming it on the low number of adventurers. The man said that this was already something usual, and that he would somehow cope with all the work. Olivia only smiled in response and said that she was counting on him, encouraging the hero. But when he wanted to go further, he was stopped by Lily, who stubbornly stood her ground. The next second, Hajime shouted sharply and pointed out that there was a flying slime somewhere, which immediately interested the girl. She ran out into the yard, angry at the slime that had managed to fly before her, but then turned back. There was no one left where her partner had been, which caused the girl to burst into tears. Lily began to have a hysterical fit, falling to the floor, because Shinonome had abandoned her, and even Anyango's encouragement didn't help. Olivia understood that the warrior was forced to do this because running after the girls would be too tiring for him. After she remembered Hajime's gift, she decided to call the children to her. With a slight smile, she offered them to help her that day. She added that she had a couple of tasks that would suit the girls who were immediately interested in it, and Olivia asked them about it. Lily, after thinking about the situation for a while, came to her senses and became cheerful, and then declared that Carmen had insightful eyes, because she knew who to choose. A little later, in the guild's reception area, the girls were doing the work of a regular guild employee. On the order board, they placed one sheet, which Lily tried to read, but immediately made a mistake. Nichijou corrected her, explaining what exactly was written on the sheet, which Olivia immediately praised. But Lily was unhappy with her inability to read and declared that she was just learning. But Carmen noted that it was wonderful. The fact was that many Beastmen adventurers had no interest in learning to read. Thus, some difficult tasks required reading skill, making it one of the best tools for an adventurer. That is why, by Olivia's decision, Onyango was given the task of managing the notice board. But Lily, upon hearing this, immediately clarified her task, which Carmen was supposed to give her. The girl thought for a while. The girl waited impatiently for her answer. After that, Olivia suggested the task of washing the floor, which made Lily a little taken aback. There was silence between them for a while, and Carmen waited patiently for her answer. After a while, Lily replied that she would handle it and would clean the floors until they were shiny, to which Olivia smiled. After that, the girl stubbornly washed the floors with a floor brush, while Onyango at that moment helped Olivia with issuing orders from the notice board. So Lily was busy until the break, when Carmen invited her to have a snack in a private room. The floors were already shining, and Lily, entering the room, said that she was tired when Onyango noticed her with a pen in her hands. In response to Lily's interest in her occupation, the gnome girl said that she was told to write down numbers from a given piece of paper. Her friend was delighted to learn that Onyango could count, and Onyango bragged that her grandmother had taught her how to use an abacus. Lily wanted to learn how to use it too, and asked Onyango to help her with it somehow. When Olivia entered the room with food in her hands, on the plate was Natalie's special ham sandwich, made from the meat of a Rampatson bear from the dungeon. The girls, tired after their chores, devoured the food, but Lily did so silently, clearly thinking about something. Olivia, who had already decided to keep an eye on them, noticed this, and only kept silent with a slight smile. After lunch, it was time for routine tasks, during which Onyango would continue to work on numbers, and Lily had to wash the floors on the second floor. The heroine approached this task with the same confidence and determination as before. While mopping the floors, Lily knew she was doing it because she couldn't count, but she humbly continued to do the task. At that moment, Olivia was watching her from around the corner, and after seeing the girl's efforts, she was calm and happily went back. After some time, Onyango came to Lily and announced that she no longer had to wash the floor. But when she looked at it, she found that it was literally shining, and told her that they now had to dismantle the warehouse, which Lily happily accepted. The girl was glad for another activity besides washing, and another chance to prove her worth. Upon arriving at the warehouse, Lily found that she was tired and could not handle heavy lifting as easily as Onyango. But after watching her easily drag 2 boxes outside, Lily also decided that she could lift a heavy box and put forth her best efforts. But the next moment, she slipped and fell with the box on the floor, realizing that she had made a mistake. In this position, Lily could not move, and finally tired, she burst into tears. Onyango heard her cry and came to her, and then picked up the box and asked what exactly had happened. But Lily replied that she was useless, and although her friend noted that she made the floor shine, the girl was sure that this job was not for a copper-ranked adventurer. Lily understood that anyone could handle this job if they tried hard enough, although Onyango disagreed with that. But the heroine, with tears in her eyes, was sure that it was too early for her to become a copper-ranked adventurer. She was sure that she had to return the license and apologize to Onyango for disappointing her as a member of the group. This caused both girls to burst into tears, which Olivia, who was passing by, heard and went into the warehouse to find out what happened. After a while of hot drinks, Olivia listened to all the girls' thoughts, and she confirmed that it was true that she had only washed the floors and that it was a job that anyone could do. But Carmen also added that when she saw Lily's work, she thought she was someone from Hajime's group and was very impressed. Olivia explained that the village adventurer's job was to complete the remaining quests that had expired, and all of these quests had little reward, and most of them were boring and tedious. But regardless of these factors, it was their completion that kept the village alive. After Lily calmed down, Olivia also said that being honest and true to one's cause was the most important trait of a village adventurer. Hearing this, Willie was inspired and happy, especially when he said that this trait, the greatest weapon of an adventurer, was something that both she and Hajime had. Lily's weapon, she was extremely inspired, and her face was filled with complete self-confidence. The girl announced that she would sort out the warehouse, which Anyango wanted to help her with, but Olivia stopped her. Pointing to the notebook with notes and numbers, she said that the gnome girl had carelessly filled in the second half and told her not to draw on her work, for which she apologized. A little later, towards evening, the guild held the award ceremony, during which Anyango was still working on the numbers. Meanwhile, Lily was once again scrubbing the floors until they shone. And so the time passed until late in the evening. Hajime returned, noting that he had somehow finished all his chores, and the girls greeted him cheerfully. After greeting them in return, the man inquired about their activities during the day. What Olivia told about, noting that Anyango was running various errands while Lily thoroughly washed all the floors. Hajime was surprised that Lily was doing something so boring, and only then realized why the floors were so shiny. The heroine herself looked at him confidently and proudly declared that it was Hajime and Lily's weapon, but the man did not understand what she was talking about. One hot summer day, Hajime stopped, sweating profusely. He voiced his thoughts out loud, very displeased, that they needed to change into something simpler, as it was getting hot outside. Behind him, Lily and Anya were playing madly with their toys. Suddenly, she noticed one thing in the forest, and called out to Hajime in shock. Hajime looked at her and saw Lily holding the dried form of a large beetle in her arms. Lily screamed in shock at Hajime that this thing had suddenly fallen to the ground, to which Hajime calmly and smilingly said that it was the shell of a summer beetle. Lily asked Hajime about the summer beetle, not understanding. Hajime began to explain to her that the summer beetle is a loud beetle that crawls out of the ground in the summer and is quite noisy. Suddenly, the sound of some kind of flying beetle was heard from the side. Lily turned around and insistently shouted to the side, not noticing the source of the sound, for it to be quieter. Then Lily also wanted to loudly ask who was making noise, but noticing a flying beetle in mid-sentence, she began to scream in fear. Lily held her sword in front of her and said that the bug was disgusting, but at the same time cool. The bug, not stopping to scream, persistently made its sounds. Anya stood next to Lily, a little nervous. Hajime informed them that it was an adult summer bug. Hajime became a little irritated by the noise that did not stop, and with a sharp movement of his leg, he kicked the bug that was making the noise. The bug flew very far to the side, and its echo from flying could be heard. Lily and Anya looked at the beetle that flew away and shouted dragon at the beetle. Hajime was not in the best mood and just looked at them with disapproval. But looking at the beetle's shell, he thought about his own with a slight smile. As the evening came, Natalie asked everyone about their favorite hobby. Hajime and Lily were sitting at the table eating their dinner. Lily thought about it after Natalie's question and didn't answer. Natalie said in a good mood how she saw the boys today collecting beautiful stones. Watching the boys, Natalie became curious about whether Hajime and Lily had any hobbies and asked them about it again. Hajime and Lily looked at her for a moment, thinking. Then after a few seconds, Lily replied that she felt happy when she made the floor shine. Natalie smiled at her, agreeing with her opinion that cleaning was a good thing to do. Lily was proud of her words and hobby, and with a burst of emotion asked Natalie if she wanted Lily to show her her abilities. To which Natalie laughed a little and replied that she did not like to make Lily work for free. Natalie then turned to Hajime and asked him about his favorite hobby. Hajime thought for a moment. Natalie and Lily looked at him, waiting for his answer. After a short thought, Hajime answered that he once liked to collect bones. Natalie asked him again about it, a little surprised. Natalie asked Hajime what kind of bones he liked to collect. Hajime calmly replied that he'd like to collect any bones he could find. Moran came up behind him and said that there was a time when his companions thought that bones made Hajime stronger. Sipping his beer, Hajime replied that they used to collect different kinds. Hajime said that after all, their den was filled with a whole bunch of stuff, and there were rumors that a cannibal lived there and laughed with Moran, remembering their old times. Natalie, a little shocked, replied that she understood everything. Natalie, stuttering and nervously asked Hajime if he was collecting bones now. Hajime, still laughing indifferently, answered that he was already a man and why would he need to collect bones. Natalie, also a little nervously, answered that she understood. The next day, Natalie saw Lily and Hajime off in the morning and began her cleaning. She collected dirty clothes and bedding from different rooms in a good mood, quietly singing her song. While cleaning, Natalie thought that collecting bones was an amazing hobby for amazing adventurers. With these thoughts, Natalie went into Hajime's room to clean the inside. Natalie opened the door leading to Hajime's room and saw several columns of summer beetle shells lined up in front of her. Frightened by what she saw, Natalie screamed throughout the house, and even her scream reached Moran. That same evening, Hajime and Lily returned back. Hajime, having learned about what was happening in his room, asked Natalie for forgiveness for scaring her. Natalie, seeing the basket full of bones that was behind Hajime, nervously thought that they had brought a basket of bones again. Natalie asked Hajime a little nervously why he needed the beetle bones. Hajime was surprised by Natalie's question and took one of the beetle shells in his hands and showed the side of the belly and told Natalie that the beetle's belly looks really cool. Lily also added that she thought their horns were really cool. Hajime explained to Lily that they were having an amateur conversation. Looking at Hajime and Lily, Natalie nervously thought that she did not understand them and that they looked like children from the village. But looking at Hajime and Lily happily discussing the beetle shells, Natalie smiled. Natalie thought that they seemed to be having fun and she couldn't do anything about it, even though she treated them badly. Natalie didn't say anything to them, and maybe in the future Natalie might regret it. The next day, Natalie still started her morning cleaning and saw a lot of beetle shells in front of Hajime's room door. Natalie looked at the shells with dislike, thinking that they were now outside the room. The shells of the summer beetles that gathered day after day made the hotel look like a lair deep in the mountains. Every day, Natalie began to feel more and more nervous and irritable. Even at night, Natalie couldn't sleep, muttering about how the hotel was being attacked by bugs. Having not had enough sleep, Natalie, as usual, saw Hajime and Lily off on their journey. Seeing Natalie's condition, Moran called her, and he said irritably that Hajime seemed to have already collected an unimaginable number of these shells. Moran asked Natalie if he should talk to Hajime, to which Natalie shook her head and said that everything was fine. Natalie also continued that the beetle shell tower only occupies the 3rd floor, which Hajime rents. Moran did not understand the meaning of the tower's words, but did not ask anything about it while listening to Natalie. Natalie smiled very happily at Moran and said that she wanted everyone in this place to live happily. Moran was proudly embarrassed for Natalie by this answer, thinking that she had already grown up. Natalie, although nervously, told herself that first she needed to start loving them. Meanwhile, Hajime was asking the dungeon guard about the summer beetle shells. The old man thought for a moment and asked Hajime why he was still looking for them. Hajime also thought for a moment and replied that there were many reasons for that. Hajime then responded with animation and excitement that he had recently had that feeling again, and had once again started thinking that beetles' horns were really cool, and their shells were deep. Lily, just like Hajime, said very enthusiastically that she thought the beetles' bellies were really cool, and they were also really deep. The old man with the stony face listened to them and said that he did not understand at all. The old man continued saying that if Hajime was looking for the shells of summer beetles, then he knew where to find several rare species of them. The old man asked Hajime what he meant by rainbow summer beetles. Hajime was surprised by this and asked the old man about rainbow beetles. The old man replied that the shells of the rainbow summer beetles glowed in 7 colors. Hajime was very surprised, saying that it was like a treasure. The old man calmly replied to Hajime that the shells of the summer beetles were worthless. The old man continued saying that around this time, beetle shells can be found at the waterfall with the firefly tree. Hajime thought about it, remembering the place with the waterfall, and very abruptly turned around together with Lily and ran, saying that it was too tempting an idea, and told Lily that they were going back to the guild for information and a map. Lily ran after Hajime, agreeing with him. Taking the map and information from the guild, they began their journey, and a statue of the mountain god appeared before them. Lily asked Hajime if it was really the statue of the mountain god. Hajime told her to pray to him for a safe journey. Lily brought her hands together in prayer and mentally prayed to the statue of the mountain god. During the journey, they met many different dangerous monsters and also rode on the backs of friendly animals. They took short breaks for food and enjoyed it. Lily, following Hajime in the forest, was clearing away branches from her path and saw a waterfall in front of her. The place where the waterfall was very beautiful, and there were various fruits hanging from the trees that grew near the waterfall. Hajime looked at the map and happily said that they were there. Lily was very enchanted by the beauty of the waterfall. After that, Hajime collected firewood for the fire, and Lily fished in the water. As evening approached, Hajime and Lily sat by the fire and grilled fish. After dinner, Hajime offered Lily an ointment to prevent her from being bitten by various insects. Lily agreed and took the ointment, but suddenly grew into her adult self. Adult Lily looked at Hajime and sniffed, noticing something. Lily said she could smell soil. Sitting together near the fire, Hajime offered Lily to sleep as she wanted. Lily refused, saying that she would wait. Lily looked at one tree in the distance, thinking about it. Hajime next to her said that they had already looked around and had not found any summer beetle shells anywhere. Lily thought about it, not understanding what he meant. Hajime continued by saying that they like to come out of their shells in the dead of night, before they get their wings, after climbing a tree, of course. Hajime said that he hoped that tonight would be that night. Lily thought about it again after his words and asked Hajime how they get wings. Hajime told her that he didn't know, because he himself had never seen it before. Hajime then thought that if they found several shells, they would give one to Natalie, since she hadn't been looking very well lately. Lily thought for a moment, not understanding, but then something caught her attention. Lily looked at the tree roots that were visible from the tree, and on it stood a small rainbow summer beetle. The summer beetle is filled with the power of the spirit, and these beetles, under the strong influence of the spirit of fire, can cause forest fires. Lily happily informed Hajime that there was a rainbow summer beetle there while pointing to the tree roots. Hajime looked where Lily pointed and confirmed her words, saying that it was probably him. Lily watched the rainbow beetle with joy and determination, waiting for her to leave her shell. But as time went on, Lily would sometimes fall asleep without waiting, but then wake up forcing herself. And at one of those moments, Lily noticed how the rainbow summer beetle began to peel off from its shell. Lily and Hajime watched the rainbow beetle, which renewed itself and flew on in its new skin. Lily and Hajime were so delighted by this and smiled happily while looking at each other. Hajime happily suggested that Lily take the shell of the rainbow summer beetle, and Lily agreed along with him. The next day, Hajime and Lily returned to the inn and showed Natalie their new rainbow summer beetle shell. Natalie greeted them and happily admired the rainbow beetle shell. Hajime also agreed with Natalie's admiration and happily said that they had found 3 pieces of shell, and so he and Lily want to give one of the shells to Natalie. Natalie was extremely surprised and a little nervous. Hajime gave her one of the rainbow beetle shells, saying that it was a reward for taking good care of them every day. Lily agreed with him, and they both looked at Natalie very proudly and embarrassedly. Natalie was very surprised by this proposal, and, overcoming her fear and dislike of shells, she smiled softly at them. Natalie asked for forgiveness with a kind smile and told them that she really didn't want that. Hajime and Lily were surprised by her answer, not understanding her. One day, Oliva met Hajime at the guild, telling him that he had done a good job. Hajime happily replied that she had nothing to worry about, and it was a piece of cake. Hajime happily said that the life of a village adventurer wasn't that bad when work didn't pile up. Oliva, after hearing his happy response, sighed tiredly, saying that now that Hajime mentioned it, a new dungeon had appeared. Meanwhile, Lily and Anya were sitting by the window and talking about their own things. Suddenly, Anya called Lily and said that she had heard this from her grandmother and asked Lily if she was old. Lily didn't answer, but Anya happily said that the ancients had incredible special powers and happily asked Lily what her ability was. Lily sat silently, and Anya stood waiting for her answer. Then Lily answered Anya that she had no abilities. Ancients are those who are born with very rare beauty. They can be vampires, werewolves, jellyfish, and even mermaids. But those who have the powers of any ancient race fall under the category of ancient blood. Lily had the ancient blood of a succubus. At night, already grown-up Lily was sitting on a chair thinking about the ancient blood. Hajime passed by, yawning, and asking what she was doing, since they had to get up early tomorrow morning. After a while, Lily was lying behind Hajime, also thinking about the ancient blood. Lily thought with hope that if she had ancient blood, then she had power too. The next day, Hajime looked at Lily in confusion as she screamed that her sleeping dragon power was awakening. Lily stood with her head down and holding her one hand as if she was holding her power in it. Hajime asked Lily, confused, what happened to her. Anya, standing next to Lily, told her that it looked cool. Hajime nervously thought that Lily was sick with something. Hajime thought nervously about how she had contracted the disease that an adventurer would get when they became a little stronger. He remembered his younger years when he, like Lily, thought that he had incredible strength. Hajime calmed down a bit and cleared his throat before decisively saying that their goal today was to find out whether they should destroy the dungeon or leave it alone. Lily and Anya calmed down and looked at Hajime, asking him again about the task. Hajime confirmed their mission and said that a new dungeon had appeared not far from here, but it was quite difficult to get there. Hajime continued saying that they were going to find out what kind of monsters and treasure chests appeared in this dungeon. Lily asked him in surprise why they needed to know about it, to which Hajime replied that if it was a useless dungeon, the guild would order it to be destroyed. Hajime added that there was no point in going up a dangerous mountain path for a worthless dungeon. Lily, after hearing Hajime's words, sadly said that it was a pity and they should leave him. Hajime immediately responded negatively, saying that if they didn't control such things, it would have a devastating effect on the ecosystem. Lily listened to him and thought that there was a lot to think about. Hajime, Lily, and Anya left Kamai village and arrived at the dungeon. A large entrance door appeared in front of Lily, which leads to a new dungeon. Lily was about to open the door and enter the dungeon, but Hajime stopped her by holding her by the collar and telling her to stop. Then a girl with glasses appeared in front of them, greeted them, and asked Hajime if they were adventurers from Komai village. Hajime answered her in the affirmative and asked them if they were guild workers watching over the dungeon. The female worker confirmed this and informed them that the new dungeon followed a 3-day cycle. The dungeon cycle is simply put, the time when the dungeon resets, and when that happens, all the chests and monsters are restored. Hajime thought to himself that he could estimate the size of the dungeon by its cycle. A 3-day cycle means that the dungeon can have about 2 or 3 floors. If there are no good monsters or treasure chests, it will be destroyed. Hajime's adventurer mind switched on and he mentally hoped that they still had a chance, that there would be rare monsters and golden chests with loot. Then Hajime heard Lily's voice, who was still pretending to have the power of the dark demonic eye. Anya, looking at Lily, also became worried, and Hajime also nervously asked Lily what happened to her in the morning. Lily raised her head with a smile and said that she was trying to awaken her ancient power. Hajime, not understanding her, asked her again. And then Lily answered that Veronica 1E has the power to control men, which means Lily can also turn into a dragon. Hajime, as if cut off, answered her that succubi are not capable of transformation. Hajime thought nervously to himself that he knew she would be curious about herself and he assumed it was natural. And then Hajime told Leela that she shouldn't awaken them intentionally and it hurt him to watch, and added that at some point her power would awaken on its own. Hajime continued saying that all she could do now was not let the power control her by raising the dungeon's level. After listening to Hajime, Lily looked at him with admiration and smiled, agreeing with him, saying that they needed to move forward. But Hajime stopped her saying that they should have a snack to restore their strength. Anya stood there clutching her left shoulder and closing her eyes, imagining how her sleeping powers were in her shoulders. And after numerous attempts, she wondered how to do it. After eating, Hajime, Lily, and Anya opened the door to the dungeon and looked inside. Inside the dungeon, there was a completely different open world, in which there was a large house nearby, and around it there were few dried trees. Around the house there was nothing, and the forest was a little further than the house. Hajime, Lily, and Anya saw such a place and smiled in admiration. Lily asked Hajime in admiration what kind of place this was. Hajime replied that it was a flat-type dungeon. Hajime thought about how, compared to the layered dungeons, the flat ones had rare monsters roaming around. Lily noticed a small butterfly flying in front of her and laughing happily ran after it. Lily, running after the butterfly, said what a relaxing place it was. But suddenly, running after the butterfly, Lily almost fell off the cliff, which was invisible because of the tall grass. Lily stopped in time and looked down in fear, saying that it was close. Hajime and Anya came up to her, telling her to be careful. Hajime informed them that instead of walls, they were surrounded by cliffs. Hajime told them that this dungeon, no matter how peaceful it was, if you relax, you can die. Hajime looked at a nearby house and thought, Hajime then suggested that everyone head towards the house, assuming that perhaps the main monster of this dungeon was there. On the way, they met a colored worm, which was a monster of the lowest level. The bees surrounding the worm are not harmful, but they are unpleasant in their own way. The worm dies when it loses its petals, which are on its head. They also met a bird called Gay, whose cry was very irritating. Hearing the bird, you feel like you were rotting from the inside. The bird started to scream when Hajime, Lily, and Anya passed by. Lily said in annoyance as the bird was very noisy. Then Lily asked Hajime if the birds were tasty, to which Hajime replied that they tasted terrible. Meanwhile, Anya had already defeated the colored worm and was chasing the bees. The three of them continued their journey and also encountered many different monsters that they had already seen in other dungeons. They carefully walked between the cliffs and the trees. After some time, Lily looked around the area and ran to Hajime, telling him that there was nothing around except rocks. Hajime also looked around, and Anya asked him where they should go now. Then Hajime asked him where they should go now. Then Hajime noticed something on top of the cliff, and happily ran straight to him. Anya saw this and told everyone that there was something up there. Lily shouted after Hajime that it was unfair and asked him to wait for them. Hajime laughed happily, telling them to catch up with him, and called them stupid kids. Then after a while, Hajime climbed up the cliff, but only Lily and Anya were sitting on his back. Hajime irritably and heavily climbed up the cliff because of Lily and Anya, and the girls, out of fear, tightly grabbed his back and just as irritably told Hajime to be careful. Having climbed the cliff, all three of them looked at the open sky, and then a strange bird in the form of origami flew by. Lily, also noticing it, commented that this bird was somehow strange. Everyone silently agreed with her. Next to them stood a structure in the form of a tree that was wrapped with a rope, and this rope was connected to a similar structure below on the cliff where the house stood. From the outside, this rope seemed to be a rope from which one could descend to another cliff. Looking at these structures, Hajime thought for a while, and then suggested that the girls use it. Hearing Hajime, Anya was a little surprised by fear and nervously said that this was not their style, and looked at Lily for support. But Lily, without saying anything, smiled happily, and taking her sword, she used it as a rope and flew down, sliding along the rope. Hajime looked at Anya and said that she was next. Anya was nervously surprised and out of fear began to say that she could fly after Hajime, and denied that she was not afraid of heights. But without answering her, Hajime suddenly grabbed Anya, and together they flew down the rope, while Anya screamed at the top of her lungs in surprise and fear. After they went down, Anya grabbed Hajime's hand and wouldn't let go. Hajime smiled nervously at this, and behind them, Lily stood irritated, jealous of Hajime. Then they saw a handcar on the railroad tracks in front of them. Lily and Anya were standing on one side of the trolley, and Hajime was standing on the other side. Together they rocked the trolley and moved further along the rails. They safely reached the house where the main boss monster was. They went inside the building and saw the dungeon boss, the Scarecrow Knight, in front of them. All three of them bared their weapons before him and were excitedly ready for battle. Suddenly Hajime ran first, saying that the boss was his. Looking at Hajime's action in surprise, Lily and Anya ran after Hajime, saying that it was unfair. Hajime then let Lily and Anya run forward and attack the boss monster first. Hajime watched as Lily and Anya attacked the boss monster but were unable to harm the monster in any way. The boss monster kept defending itself from their attacks and became even more angry. Lily and Anya sighed tiredly and turned to Hajime, saying that maybe the monster was too strong for them. Hajime looked at them and chuckled, and then he asked them if they were giving up. After his question, Lily and Anya got angry at him, and they said that they didn't mean anything like that and then started their attack. Lily and Anya attacked the boss monster together, already more strongly telling each other that they were a great combo. After a few such attacks, the boss monster was defeated by Lilia and Anya, and lay motionless on the floor. They sighed tiredly but very happily said that they did it and gave each other a high five, and a treasure chest appeared in front of them. Lily told Anya in admiration that she had dealt so much damage with her hammer, and Anya in admiration told Lily that without her magic they wouldn't have been able to do it. Hajime watched them with a proud smile. Lily and Anya opened the chest and pulled out a gold item without understanding what it was. Hajime thought to himself that there seemed to be no rare monsters here, and that they only got a wooden chest for the boss. But still, Hajime smiled and thought that it was good after all. Hajime patted Lily and Anya on the head and congratulated them on completing their first dungeon. Lily and Anya were embarrassed by this, and Lily looked at Hajime with admiration. On the way back, Hajime wished them both to remain vigilant. Lily and Anya agreed with him. In her mind, Lily thought that just like Hajime, when her ancient power awakened, Lily wanted to be like Hajime. A few days later, at the guild, Oliva stamped the paper to destroy the dungeon. Stretching at her desk, Oliva said out loud her thought that a good adventurer does a much better job. Oliva smiled warmly at her thoughts, and then all that was left for her to do was summon the dungeon destroyer. The carriage was going somewhere full speed, and inside the carriage sat a girl with long black hair. She was a dungeon destroyer, and her name was Sekihime. She was wondering if she could find someone special in Komai Village. Dungeon Destroyer is the name given to a professional hired by a guild to destroy unwanted dungeons with their abilities. Hajime had just woken up from a night's sleep. His task today would be to escort one of these to a dungeon that was to be destroyed. Lily and Sekihime were sitting on the white guide snake named Gorgon. Lily was sitting cheerful and inspired by this chance, and Sekihime, like a real lady, was sitting very modestly and smiling easily with her eyes closed. The snake was very long and big. Hajime stood next to the snake holding his hammer and shouting at Lily to be quiet. Sekihime turned to Lily, saying that this snake is not just a snake, but it also functions as her eyes. Lily asked Sekihime shyly if she should get off the kite, to which Sekihime, with her eyes closed and a slight smile, answered that she was not in the way where she was. Sekihime told Lily that the snake Gorgon was wise and kind, so she shouldn't worry. Lily was inspired by these words, and also added that the dragon was also wise and kind. Hajime watched them from below with an incomprehensible expression. Hajime then looked at Sekihime and thought, Dungeon Destroyer Sekihime is a jellyfish. Ancient blood with the ability to turn everything that enters her sight into stone without the slightest exception. Hajime watched Sekihime and suddenly noticed that she had already fallen asleep, and Hajime was surprised by this, wondering to himself if she had fallen asleep. Hajime didn't know what she was thinking about. Suddenly, Lily notices something in front and starts screaming, calling Hajime, pointing to the sky and saying that there is something very big there. Hajime looked where Lily pointed and told her that it was a migratory whale. Lily was surprised by this unusual animal and asked Hajime if they were tasty, to which Hajime replied that they were very tasty. Lily protested, saying that she wanted to try it too. Hajime sighed from fatigue and told Lily that he would feed her the whale as soon as he had the chance. Listening to their conversation, Sekihime sat with her eyes closed, thinking that the migratory whale tasted strange, but nevertheless delicious. Sekihime thought sadly that it didn't matter what size or color it was. Everything was the same to her. Arriving at the dungeon, they were met by a girl in glasses who guards and watches the dungeon. Hajime opened the door to the dungeon and the first Lily entered. In the dungeon, everything was very calm and peaceful. Lily, smiling, said that in this dungeon, everything was as calm as before. Then suddenly Lily rolled up her sleeves, preparing for something, and said that they had to double their efforts because Anya wasn't here. But Hajime grabbed her by the collar from behind, telling her to stop. Sekihime stood next to Hajime with her eyes still closed and asked him if she was looking in the right direction. Hajime, holding Lily, answered yes, and asked her not to turn around because they were behind her. Sekihime took one step forward and gradually began to open her eyes. Opening her eyes, she looked at everything around her, and everything turned to stone in an instant. Hajime was very shocked when he saw her abilities, because in his thoughts it was far beyond the level of the strongest. Hajime thought in shock that it wasn't a slow and steady petrification, but everything turned to stone the moment she opened her eyes. Lily stood next to Hajime, trembling in fear of Sekihime. Hajime looked around and said that everything was bad since the dungeon was collapsing. Lily, stuttering in fear, asked Hajime what they should do now. Once upon a time, little Hajime heard a rumor about a jellyfish. As a dungeon destroyer for guilds, the jellyfish was useful and valued as a priceless treasure. When little Hajime heard about this as a child, he thought that she probably had no problem finding food and other expressions of bitterness. In the evening, Sekihime stood and watched the night sky. A little further away from her, tents and a fire were built, next to which sat Hajime, Lily, and a girl worker. Hajime looked at Sekihime and commented that she continued to look at the sky. The girl worker told him that it was because the sky was the only thing she could look at. Hajime looked at Sekihime with a little disappointment and thought about the ancient blood. Adult Lily observed Sekihime and said that she seemed lonely. Hajime agreed with Lily's words. Then Hajime stood up from the log and stretched and said that it was time for them to go to bed. Lily agreed and also stood up from the log. The next day, Hajime woke up to Lily calling him. He was surprised by this and asked Lily what happened. Then Hajime looked at his hands and his body and was very shocked, saying that he had become small. Lily sighed in relief and replied that she knew it was Hajime. Hajime looked at Lily questioningly and asked her why he was sleeping. Then, he heard a woman's laughter and paid attention to it. The girl laughing was Sekihime. She ran around different places with her eyes open in a joyful smile. She happily said that when she opened her eyes, nothing turned to stone. Seeing Sekihime's reaction, little Hajime lay back down on the ground sighing and saying that it was just a dream. Lily, sitting next to Hajime, called out to him and told him to get up. Hajime asked Lily who the chicken was and said that Sekihime was acting strange and that he had become a nobody. Lily, not understanding him, told him that it made no difference and asked him to get up. Meanwhile, Sekihime looked at the grass and the bird, which was croaking, and becoming increasingly delighted with the appearance of the world. She said very enthusiastically that the whole world is very soft and very colorful. Lily and Hajime looked at Sekihime with confusion. Then Hajime said that what was happening now was not normal. Lily agreed with him. After some time, all three began to walk through an unusual world. Lily and Sekihime were running happily in the field ahead of Hajime. Looking at them, Hajime thought that they had already become friends. Hajime followed them and thought to himself that no matter how he looked at it, this was not like the real world. But then he thought that the jellyfish had opened its eyes and became confused, asking himself if he ever had such strange dreams. Eventually, in his thoughts, Hajime came to the conclusion that he was probably very tired. Then Hajime heard the girls in front of them scream in fear. The reason for the girls' fear was the slime that appeared in front of them. Lily angrily asked what kind of slime it was and if it had always been like this. Sekihime, who had only ever seen slime in its fossilized state, asked in surprise if it was one of those swampy kinds she had heard of. Lily warned Sekihime to be quiet, and before she could finish her words, she and Sekihime ate the slime. Hajime looked at Lily and Sekihime with confusion and helped them get out of the slime. Sekihime happily knelt on the ground and thanked Hajime by calling him a little boy she doesn't know. Hajime didn't say anything and just thought about how he was called. Sekihime then said with a gentle smile and happily that who would have ever thought that the world could be so cheerful. Then, she added that she definitely didn't know about it. Hajime didn't know what to answer and just watched silently. Lily approached Sekihime and called her to go with her to another place. Sekihime agreed and followed Lily. Hajime watched them and chuckled cheerfully. As they continued on their way, they came across a ladder on the ground that led down into the darkness. The three of them went down there and came across a large one-eyed monster that chased them for some time. Then, after fighting this one-eyed monster, they were rewarded with a treasure chest. Opening it, Sekihime studied the gold in the chest in surprise. Having examined all the treasure, they went on their way and came across a ladder that led upward. Having climbed up, they came out of the well directly onto the shore with the sea. Sekihime was very much delighted and even lost the power of speech. Lily told her that it was called the ocean. Sekihime happily said that she had heard about it. Hajime nervously asked Lily why she was acting like she knew everything. Lily told him that she had met turtles here. Hajime turned to Lily in surprise. Suddenly, in the sky, all three noticed a migratory whale flying over them, and very close. All three looked at it with admiration, especially Lily and Sekihime. The whale that flew over them was very large. Lily actively ran after the whale, saying that it was the whale they had met during the day. Hajime stopped Lily, while Sekihime silently lay on her back right on the ground, watching the whales flying. Sekihime happily said with tears in her eyes that she felt so many emotions and it was super amazing. Lily also agreed with her. Hajime thought that Lily became like a stupid person when she had a lot of fun. Hajime then thought confusedly about why he had never been here, but Lily had, and came to the conclusion that maybe this wasn't his dream. Hajime looked at Lily, who was scratching her arm. Hajime noticed that there was a drawing on Lily's hand. He called Lily and asked her what was on her hand. Lily also looked at the drawing that was on her forearm. Lily, after examining the drawing from all sides, said that it was some kind of strange drawing. Hajime told her that such drawings appear on the body after you master a special skill. Hajime told her about Veronica as an example, who had a similar pattern on her right breast. Lily was surprised by this. Hajime thought about it, connecting skills, dreams, and succubi even more. Hajime remembered another name for the succubus, the dream demon. Lily asked him about it, confused. Hajime explained to her that succubi have other names, such as dream demons and incubi. Hajime told Lily what Olivia told him, that succubi can take people into their dreams. Sekihime joined the conversation, saying that in that case the one who showed her this wonderful dream was probably Lily. Sekihime smiled and bowed in gratitude, and thanked Lily for such a wonderful adventure. It sounded in Lily's head that the ancient blood had awakened her powers. Lily smiled happily, telling Sekihime that there was no need for thanks and that it was all nonsense. Suddenly, little Hajime returned to his usual appearance as the adult Hajime. He looked at himself and was surprised, asking that it was already morning. Sekihime looked at Hajime and blushed very much from embarrassment while looking at him with admiration. She told Hajime that he was exactly her type. Hajime was embarrassedly surprised by this, and Lily was in terrible shock. Waking up now would mean getting into trouble, so Hajime wanted to continue sleeping. Sekihime said excitedly that she wanted to move to Komai village. Lily tried to get Sekihime away from Hajime. Sekihime, with her shining eyes, suggested that Hajime go out together. Hajime didn't know how to react to this, and he understood that in this vast world there was a wonderful thing called love that he didn't know how to respond to. Already in the real world, Sekihime saw Hajime and Lily off on their journey. Natalie, who was standing around the corner, watched them with interest. Sekihime asked Hajime when he would be back. Hajime belatedly and nervously replied that they might return closer to dusk. With a feeling of confusion, Hajime walked outside with Lily. On the way, he thought about what he needed to do. Hajime had been popular with women before, but it was for different reasons. He felt like this time was a little different. Following him was an irritated Lily, who was jealous of him. She asked Hajime irritably what he would do with this Sekihime. Hajime did not answer, thinking. After some thought, Hajime said that if someone likes you, they can let you touch you for free. Lily was confused and angry, to say the least. Hajime looked at Lily and thought that they were looking at him like he was an insect. After some time, Lily attacked the small monsters very aggressively and viciously and won. Anya looked at Lily and was a little scared and told Hajime that Lily was kind of scary today. Anya asked Hajime if something was wrong. Hajime didn't answer and squatted down, thinking about what to do. Anya looked at him and smiled softly. Anya asked Hajime what happened and invited him to talk to her about it since they were members of a group. Anya winked with one eye, inviting him to talk to her. Hajime looked at Anya and sighed and agreed to tell. Hajime said that just as an example, imagine that Anya is an adult and has fallen in love with Hajime. Anya was a little embarrassed by his words. Hajime continued, telling Anya that if she fell in love with him, then that meant he could give her attention for free. At these words, Anya's expression changed to one of disappointment. Hajime looked at Anya and thought that he had once again met a gaze that looked at him like an insect. Hajime's verdict was that love was complicated. Some time later, Olivia greeted Hajime in the guild with a friendly smile, asking him how his day had gone. Hajime looked tired and brought Olivia many bottles of slime. Olivia looked at the bottles and thought that there were too many. While looking at one of them, Olivia asked Hajime about Sekihime and whether she was at the inn. Hajime, a little embarrassed, confirmed her words, and added that Sekihime confessed her love to him. Olivia, hearing these words, froze in place, not understanding him. Then she slowly turned to Hajime and asked him about Sekihime. Hajime answered her with an embarrassed and stupid smile that Sekihime liked the way his face looked. Olivia, hearing this, started laughing. Hajime shyly asked her what was funny about it, to which Olivia made a thoughtful face and asked him about how Sekihime could see his face if jellyfish can't see people's faces. Hajime awkwardly explained Lily's ability to Olivia and what happened in the dream. Olivia went into thought again, saying that Lily had another amazing ability, Olivia asked again that it was all a dream, to which Hajime answered in the affirmative. Hajime said tiredly that this was the story they had and he had been thinking about it all day. Hajime told Olivia that he wanted to break up with Sekihime. For now, Hajime wants to continue spending his days adventuring with little Lily. Olivia thought for a moment and laughed lightly, saying that Hajime was such a heartbreaker. Olivia advised him to try to make sure that she didn't turn him into stone. At the inn, Sekihime greeted them with a gentle smile. During dinner, Sekihime wanted to pour Hajime a drink, but because her eyes were closed, she missed and the entire drink spilled onto Hajime's hand. Hajime stopped her and apologized, saying that he accidentally moved the cup. Sekihime still happily told him that she wanted to pour him a drink, because she heard about it in a poem. While wiping his hands, Hajime thought about how Sekihime might turn him into stone. He also remembered hearing somewhere that by leaving a person who is in love with him, the lover can leave a sting in him. Hajime looked at Sekihime and watched her expression, and he asked her if she was having fun. Sekihime responded in agreement and said that she really liked his voice. Sekihime continued by saying that she talked to Natalie today and learned from her that she usually loves Hajime. Natalie was weak to love stories and wanted to help Sekihime with her love. Sekihime said that this was her first love, so she might be overly excited. Sekihime's words made Hajime even more uncomfortable, so much so that even his head was sweating like buckets. Lily, who was sitting next to him, whispered to Hajime when he would refuse her. Hajime thought in his mind that it was not the time yet and he would refuse her when the time came. Lily was angry in her mind, asking when this would happen, while Hajime mentally answered her that when it happened, it would happen. Suddenly, Veronica, the owner of the Succubus Wing Bar, came in, drawing everyone's attention to herself. Hajime was surprised, and Lily was happy to see her back. Veronica smiled at everyone, saying that it had been a while since they had seen each other. Veronica noticed Sekihime and thought that there was a new face here. The next day, the whole company was in a large brick room where everyone was building a wall brick by brick. At this time, Veronica was sitting next to Hajime, who was standing doing his work. Veronica asked Hajime with a grin that someone confessed their love to him. Hajime responded by asking her decisively if she knew that Lily was very angry with her. Veronica, ignoring his question, asked him what he was going to do now. Hajime awkwardly told her that he was thinking about breaking up with Sekihime. Veronica looked at him questioningly, asking what it meant that he was thinking of breaking up. Then, suddenly jumping up to Hajime at a close distance and grabbing him by the collar, she brazenly told him to refuse her. Seeing this scene, Lily stood nearby, angry at Veronica. Hajime felt very awkward with Veronica because of the close distance between them. Veronica looked at him seriously and said that they were childhood friends and had known each other for a long time. Behind them, an angry Lily was walking towards them to stop this. Anya stood there, confused by this scene. Veronica continued saying that she was a beautiful succubus and many men were in love with her. Then, pretending to be upset, Veronica said that. However, Hajime was the only one who didn't fall under her influence. Hajime didn't know what to say, just calling her name. And suddenly, Veronica very irritatedly yelled at Hajime to fall in love with her first, and she would leave him right after that. Otherwise, Hajime would hurt her pride, and Hajime can't date Sekihime until he does that to her. Hajime also shouted at her in irritation, asking what she was talking about. Already in the evening at the hotel, annoyed Hajime went down to the first floor and saw Sekihime sitting at the table there. Sekihime beamed with joy at the realization of her love for Hajime. Hajime felt awkward and ashamed that he couldn't refuse her right away. Hajime suggested that Sekihime go out and take a walk, to which Sekihime quickly agreed. Holding her hand, Hajime took her outside and told her to be careful when she walked. Sekihime smiled shyly, accepting all his words of concern. Then they went to the bench and sat down there. Sekihime sat down on the bench politely and evenly, enjoying such a walk. Hajime sat looking ahead and thinking about how to tell her about everything. Sekihime was the first to start the conversation, saying that she could hear the sounds of Komai village at night. Meanwhile, Natalie, Veronica, and Lily were hiding behind a large tree, watching them. Sekihime continued by saying that it was like a rendezvous from a poem. Hajime agreed with her with a sigh, and awkwardly told her that it wasn't a date. Hearing these words, Sekihime's expression changed from happy to normal without a smile. Sekihime's hand started shaking, and they sat like that for several minutes in complete silence. Sekihime then calmly asked Hajime that she was only bothering him. Hajime even more awkwardly told her that he was not bothering him, but he just didn't want to meet her. Hajime apologized to her for that. Sekihime didn't answer, and the silence continued even longer. Then Hajime looked at Sekihime to see if she was okay, but he saw Sekihime crying bitterly in front of him, and he became very worried. Sekihime began to sob and stutter, saying that it was much more painful than she expected. Hajime felt even more awkward because of these words. Suddenly, Sekihime sat down on the ground on her knees and covered her face with her hands and began to sob, saying that she was in great pain and very sad. Hajime, not knowing what to do, told her that once she ate, she would feel even better. Sekihime told him that she couldn't eat in this state, and she continued to cry, saying that it was very painful for her and that it was a great tragedy. Suddenly, from under Sekihime's feet, the ground began to turn into stone and crack. Hajime jumped up from the bench, running away from the stone-like places. Hajime yelled at Sekihime to calm down as her ability was starting to get out of control. Because of the noise Sekihime created, the villagers began to notice. They began to come out of their houses to see where the noise was coming from. Sekihime did not listen to Hajime and continued to cry, saying that it was very painful. Sekihime's area of effect began to expand even further, and Hajime had to move even further away from it. Hajime thought that at this rate, not everyone would be lucky. Then, not knowing what to do, Hajime shouted at Sekihira that he would date her. The three who were standing behind the tree watching were very surprised by this, and Veronica even got angrier. Hajime, having made up his mind, began to tell Sekihime that it was just a date. And as he himself understood, he began to talk about how he would be able to give her his time for free and save money on brothels. At this time, Sekihime stopped her crying after hearing the words. Her expression showed that she was looking at as if he was an insect, even though she had her eyes closed. Veronica, who was watching from behind the tree, turned away to avoid laughing. Natalie blushed from what she heard, and Lily continued to look at him as if he were an insect. The villagers who were watching this scene began to discuss among themselves what Hajime had said, calling it something unimaginable. And so the curtain fell on the girl's first love, and the man's honor was destroyed. Hajime and Lily were heading back to the village. Lily was in a very good mood after another adventure. On the way, their grandmother saw them, cheerfully asking them where they were returning from. After Granny heard that they were returning from work, she began to thank them, saying that thanks to Hajime's hard work, their village was very peaceful. Granny gave a candy to Lily and waved as she watched them go. Hajime and Lily thanked their grandmother and continued on to the village. 3 people appeared on Hajime's way. One of them had a head like a reptile, and the other was a girl and looked like an ordinary person. Another one, who called Hajime, angrily looked like an ordinary person, with dark hair but with ears like a cat. He aggressively said that Hajime was the adventurer of the village. Without letting him finish his sentence, Hajime suddenly hit him in the face. The other 2 who were standing behind the black-haired man were very surprised. Hajime also hit the last 2, leaving them unconscious. Hajime stood threateningly in front of the black-haired man whose face was already beaten. The black-haired man got scared and asked Hajime to stop, saying that he was already beating them for too long without reason. The black-haired man wiped the blood from his nose and said that he was not Hajime's enemy and that he was part of the Vigilance Corps. Hajime stopped and was surprised by the Vigilance Corps. The black-haired man continued, saying that they came to tell Hajime something. The black-haired man asked Hajime not to go around the village acting like he was all-powerful, even though he was strong. Hajime was surprised by the black-haired man's impudence, and at that moment, the black-haired man pointed at himself and his partners, informing them that the Vigilance Corps was in charge of protecting the village. Hajime felt a little awkward about this. At this time, Natalie came up to them, asking Hajime if he was coming back from work. Hajime then noticed her, a little surprised, and the black-haired man blushed a little from embarrassment when he saw Natalie. The black-haired man, very awkwardly and politely, with an embarrassing smile, told Natalie that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. Natalie came closer to them, and with a friendly smile, greeted him and agreed with him, calling him Ian. Hajime watched the conversation between Natalie and Ian, and noticed an unusual change in Ian's character and communication. At first, Hajime did not understand anything, But then one thought came to him, which made him laugh. Hajime suddenly and loudly asked Ian if he was really in love with Natalia and laughed loudly. Ian was so surprised by this question that he even coughed loudly without noticing it. Ian stuttered and angrily asked Hajime what he said, to which Hajime smiled knowingly, telling Ian not to worry and that he understood everything. Hajime also affirmatively added that Ian had come to the village to pick a fight with him, and understandingly said that he had also recently had problems with love. Hajime turned to Natalie, asking her what she thought about this incident. Natalie was surprised that she was the one being asked about this. Natalie said very nervously and awkwardly that she saw Ian only as a good friend. Natalie's words made Yan feel even more sick and awkward. Meanwhile, Hajime laughed, mocking Yan very loudly, saying that he was rejected. Yan, suddenly angry, wanted to hit Hajime, saying that he would kill him. But Hajime dodged his blow in time. In response, Hajime kicked Ian in the face and angrily told him that Ian almost managed to hit him. Ian fell to the ground from a powerful kick to the face and stood up straight when he regained consciousness. Ian angrily and desperately told Hajime that he would not accept him as a member of the village. But two of his comrades took Ian by the arms and dragged him along with them, telling him to calm down because they couldn't defeat Hajime. Hajime watched them go without saying anything. Natalie, standing next to Hajime, called him and asked him why Yan came to their village, to which Hajime, with his arms folded, replied that Ian had approached him to tell him about how he would protect the village and such. Natalie told Hajime that it was all because Ian was part of the Vigilance Corps. She also added with a kind smile that Jan loves their village very much. Hajime looked at Natalie and thought frighteningly about how she smiled sweetly after refusing someone. Hajime also became curious about how Natalie said about a village member. On the same day, night fell. Lily called Hajime, and then about what he meant by not accepting him into the village. Hajime at this time put on his outerwear. A little surprised by Lily's question, Lily also asked Hajime that he was not a member of the village. Hajime thought for a moment and replied that he was a member of the village after all. Hajime reminded Lily that he was an adventurer of the village. Lily told him about Ian's words about not accepting Hajime. Hajime told her with a slight smile that it was because his days as the village's adventurer had just begun. Hajime informed Lily that he had arrived at the village shortly before he found Lily. Lily was very surprised by this. Lily then said with a happy smile that Natalie, the innkeeper, and the guild secretary were very good. Hajime said that it was because they were doing the same job and had contact outside the village. Hajime said very thoughtfully and hopefully that it would actually take much longer to become a true member of the village. Lily looked sadly at his back, worried about him. Lily worriedly told him her thoughts that he should stop getting into fights, and what happened that night was not very pleasant. Hajime lightly chuckled at this and changed the subject, saying that dinner was ready. Lily mentally felt sad that she was ignored again. After dinner, Hajime and Lily went to bed, but Hajime was awakened by the sound of something. He opened his eyes abruptly and stared at the ceiling for a while. Hajime thought that there had been a lot of small earthquakes lately, and he hoped that it was nothing serious. The next day, a large dinosaur in the form of a hippopotamus, but with spikes all over its body, was moving somewhere, creating small earthquakes with its heavy steps. A monster wanted to attack this dinosaur, but the monster was small compared to the dinosaur, and the difference in strength was obvious. But the monster stood in front of him, preparing to attack. The dinosaur, noticing him, quickly curled up into a ball, becoming a round ball with spikes. He accelerated to high speed and jumped high above the monster. The monster looked up, watching the ball with spikes. After spinning around in the sky for a while, it fell right on the monster, creating a large round hole. The monster managed to bounce back from such a heavy fall and was able to survive. Meanwhile, in the meeting hall, Olivia was informing everyone in the hall that a semi-disaster class magical beast had been spotted on Mount Kunim, and it was a Spikosaurus. Everyone in the hall was very surprised by the Spikosaurus and said that Kunimi was only 2 mountains away from here. Olivia seriously said that the Spikosaurus was a magical beast that usually lived in the Kokushi region. Olivia also went on to say that it is believed that the Thornbill landed on the back of a passing whale and thus arrived here. One woman who was present in the assembly hall asked Olivia that if the Spikosaurus really is a semi-mythical beast, then how many people would it take to deal with it? Olivia replied that they needed a team of silver adventurers. Everyone in the hall began to think about the silver adventurer team again and were a little hesitant about giving away the entire silver adventurer team. The woman who had asked Olivia about the spike sword before turned to Hajime, who was sitting silently watching everything, and said that he was above that rank and that he was a white silver adventurer. The woman asked Hajime if he could handle the spike sword. Hajime thought for a moment and replied that he had never met a spike sword before. Hajime also added that hearing that it would take a whole team of silver adventurers and fighting a spike sword alone was scary. All the people started whispering again after Hajime's words, saying that Hajime was showing presence of mind, and some even respected it. Olivia informed them all that. Fortunately, there were silver adventurers in the central lane with experience in killing spikosaurs. The woman asked Olivia about the budget with interest, to which Olivia replied that given the union of the 7 villages, it would be enough. The woman calmly accepted Olivia's answer. Olivia also added after saying that if Hajime went with them, they would get a big discount. Hajime smiled lightly, saying that he understood. But at that moment, Ian, who was sitting silently, began to mock Hajime, saying that after all, the white silver adventurer was not as strong as they said. No one laughed at Jan's words. And then Jan's father called him and hit him in the face, scolding him not to interfere in the adults' discussion. Jan resisted, saying that he was part of the Vigilance Corps, to which his father replied that he was simply a subordinate and that it was too early for him to participate in village meetings. Jan walked back home in irritation, throwing stones and wondering why, since he was also part of the village. The next day, Hajime smoked his cigarette and thought about how he would have to deal with the spike sword in a few days. And today, Hajime wanted to take a day off and maybe attack some slime. While walking along the road with Lily, Hajime noticed a woman with long black hair and black ears. The woman was told something by a man, and she apologized and thanked him. Then she passed by Hajime and Lily, and at that time Hajime was looking at her from close range. The woman, feeling something, stopped and turned to Hajime and Lily, asking that they were adventurers of the village. The woman, in complete despair and nervously asked Hajime if he had seen her son Ian. After a while, the woman from the meeting room informed everyone that Ian, Donato, and Arisa had disappeared somewhere. Olivia ran to the woman, Ian's father, and also Hajime and Lily, telling them that some adventurers had seen the 3 of them going to the Kunimi Mountains. Ian's father got angry, clenching his fist and scolding them out loud. Ian's father couldn't stand it anymore and went to the exit of the village, but other villagers grabbed him and asked him to calm down. Hajime watched this, and his own conscience began to choke him. And Hajime suddenly told Ian's father that he would follow them. Ian's father was surprised and stood still in one place. Hajime asked Olivia to give him all the information about the Spikosaurus. Olivia quickly responded by agreeing. Ian's father suddenly shouted furiously at Hajime that he didn't need to follow Ian and abruptly sat down on the ground with his back turned to Hajime. Ian's father said that the village's adventurer was working for the village's benefit and he couldn't put Hajime in danger for the sake of these 3. After that, Ian's father remained silent, sitting with his back to Hajime. Then a woman from the guild approached Father Yan and hit Father Yan on the head very hard. Then, in a calm voice, she asked for forgiveness and asked her father to stop being angry about the situation. Lily picked up her dragon bird and firmly told her that they would do their job, to which the bird also winked at her affirmatively. At this time, Hajime noticed Natalie running towards them, saying that she heard that her friends were in trouble. Hajime confirmed this, and Natalie began to worry about her friends and wondered what to do. Then Hajime looked at her reaction and smiled lightly at Natalie's worries and patted her on the head, telling her not to worry and assured her that everything would be fine with her friends. He pointed at himself with a determined smile and proudly reminded her that he was a white silver adventurer. Natalie smiled lightly at these words and looked at him. Then, gathering herself, Natalie stood up like a soldier, raising her hands to her head and saying that she was counting on him. Hajime smiled wider, saying that this was a very good attitude. Hajime then thought that he now had a major problem. Hajime looked at Lily, who was also looking back at him while clinging tightly to Hajime's legs, and calmly told her that he was staying. Before Hajime could finish his words, Lily began to cry very loudly, and along with her, her bird began to act. Hajime was silent for a while, thinking, and finally gave in. He smiled at Lily, with a sigh, calling Lily a partner, and told her not to let him down. Lily, in response, was happy and loudly said her agreement. A few days later, Hajime and Lily were preparing for their journey and stood at the exit of the village. They were accompanied on their journey by Olivia, Ian's father, and several villagers. Hajime thought that his job for today would be to go to the location of the Spikosaurus, find the 3 villagers, and bring them back. Hajime thought with a tired sigh that young people in their day were so energetic. Ian's father bowed to Hajime, asking for his forgiveness, and furiously saying that Ian had caused all this trouble. So once he returned, he would scold him properly. The parents of the other missing people also desperately asked Hajime to find their children. Hajime awkwardly told everyone that he would do anything. Hajime thought to himself that he didn't plan on fighting anyone, but if all he had to do was bring them back, he would probably use his fists in the fight. Lily was practicing with her sword with her bird at the time. Hajime looked at her training and was a little puzzled. Then Hajime felt Olivia's gaze and looked back at her. Olivia looked at Hajime with eyes that hinted at whether it was good to take Lily with him. Hajime felt nervous and scared from that creepy look. Hajime scratched his head and thought that, to be honest, if they encountered a Spikosaurus, they would be in a lot of trouble. Unable to withstand Olivia's gaze, Hajime shouted at her that he was not her parent. Olivia was silently surprised by this reaction. After that, Hajime turned to Lily, who was training, and called her. Lily looked at him questioningly, and then Hajime confidently and loudly told her that protecting herself was her personal concern. Hajime continued by saying that she was forcing him to take her with him when he told her to stay, and that's why Hajime asked her not to complain if she died, to which Lily agreed with him with a confident smile. Having calmed down, Hajime praised Lily, saying that it seemed like she understood everything. And mounting his horse, Hajime informed Lily that it was time for them to move out. The parents of the missing and Olivia watched in silence as Hajime instructed Lily not to talk, as she might bite her tongue due to the bumpy ride, and asked her to tell him if she felt ill. Olivia looked at Hajime and uncomfortably thought that right now Hajime himself was acting exactly like her parent. Olivia was wondering if Hajime would be able to complete his task. Meanwhile, on Mount Kunimi, Ian, Donarto, and Arisa found a large footprint of a Thornosaurus. Ian, looking at this footprint, stuttering in fear, wanted to say that this was a footprint of a Thornosaurus, but Arisa interrupted him, and, speaking and stuttering with fear, was surprised that the trail of the Spikosaurus was simply huge. She hesitantly asked Jan that perhaps they should return to the village. John chuckled, asking if they were scared. He also added that he was not scared at all, and reminded his comrades that they had a duty to protect their village. But suddenly, a spherical Spikosaurus appeared above them, intending to attack the 3. Noticing the jumping Spikosaurus in time, Jan, Donarto, and Arisa managed to jump away. Jan turned to the place of the attack in confusion and asked his comrades what it was, not understanding. Suddenly, from the fog that rose from the strong blow, a Spikosaurus appeared, approaching Jan directly. Jan, surprised and afraid, learned that it was a Thornosaurus. Suddenly, the Thornosaurus opened its tail with spikes and attacked Donarto, who was standing behind him. But at that moment, Jan managed to push him aside onto the ground, protecting him and taking the entire blow. With such a heavy blow, Ian flew straight towards the rock with incredible speed. Arisa was afraid for him, watching him fly. Ian was covered in blood after the blow, and he wiped his blood from his eyes, screaming that it was painful. Ian stood up and approached Arisa, irritated, saying that this Spikosaurus could not be allowed to reach the village. But ignoring his words, Arisa asked him worriedly if he was okay. But before he could answer, the spherical Spikosaurus flew at them again. All 3 stood in one place, not knowing what to do. And at that moment, Hajime appeared behind Ian, preparing to attack the Spikosaurus. Hajime tried to stop the spherical Spikosaurus with his half-length, and using all his strength, Hajime, angrily cursing the Spikosaurus, managed to throw it to the opposite side. Ian and Arisu looked at Hajime's actions with great surprise and admiration for him. The Schizosaur, having returned to its previous state, began to snap at them aggressively. Hajime saw the angry Spikosaurus and cursed while sighing tiredly and saying that he wanted to avoid a fight. Hajime then shouted to the 3 boys, telling them to go back to the village and he would take care of the Spikosaurus himself. Ian asked Hajime in surprise why he came with the Spikosaurus himself. To which Hajime waved his hand at him, indicating that they should leave quickly, and replied that he was at work and that they should leave here. Ian didn't listen to Hajime and stood in one place, clicking his tongue at Hajime's words. But Arisa, who was standing nearby, noticed his actions and told him that they would only be in Hajime's way if they didn't leave. But at this time, Lily appeared from behind Yada, running with a sword and shouting at the Spikosaurus to be afraid of her. Seeing Lily, Yang was surprised and tried to stop her, saying that it was dangerous and that she should go with him. Lily, in turn, yelled at him not to stop her and to let her go. Meanwhile, Hajime managed to break one of the horn of the Thorniosaur. The Thorniosaur winced slightly from the pain, and Hajime mentally realized that this was its weakness. Lily, having calmed down, told Hajime that getting rid of all the spikes would be easy. All three of them and Lily hid behind a large rock, watching the battle between Hajime and the Spikosaurus. Ian, having clarified with Lily, asked that the horns of the Spikosaurus are its weakness, to which Lily replied that Hajime told her so. Ian thought and added that if you get rid of them, the body of the Spikosaurus will become soft. Arisa chewed her gum nervously and said that the Spisaur had so many spikes that it would be impossible to break them all. Without finishing his words, Hajime flew straight at their stone at high speed. Hajime cursed a little in pain, and behind the stone, Lily and Yang asked him about his condition. Hajime's head was covered in blood, and he himself was injured. Hajime, very angry, clenched his hand into a stone and lifted it up with one hand, angrily telling the Spikosaurus that it was the end for him. Arisa was still chewing gum and was talking in admiration about how Hajime had such incredible power. Donarte guessed that Hajime might have activated his ability. Hajime fought the Spikosaurus more fiercely and aggressively. Ian, watching Hajime, thought that Hajime really defeated the Spikosaurus alone and admired its strength. Hajime managed to cut off all the spikes from the Spikosaurus after a while. The Spikosaurus was left without its defense and looked tired. But Hajime defeated the Spikosaurus with one blow, and that was the power of the white-silver adventurer. Hajime caught his breath and brushed the blood off his face, thinking that he had somehow managed, and he was even bleeding. But perhaps this was the reason why he was able to defeat the Spikosaurus. From the shelter, the first one to happily run towards Hajime was Lily calling him. Ian stood there, admiring Hajime's strength, mentally saying that he was an amazing adventurer, and he thinks that he is also giving the village a great help. Suddenly, another earthquake happened at that time, and Hajime noticed the tremors together with everyone, that they were too frequent. Suddenly, Hajime felt something and shouted at Lily to move back. At that moment, right where Lily was standing, a large animal in the form of a large worm appeared from the ground. Hajime managed to push Lily, but he himself remained right next to this animal. The monster managed to bite off Hajime's arm before he pushed Lily away. Hajime was mentally shocked that his arm had been torn off, and the monster came out of the ground, watching everyone from above. Hajime looked at the monster with one hand and mentally calmed himself and urged himself to keep his hands in control while analyzing the situation. Hajime watched the monster thinking that he had never seen it before, and guessed that perhaps it too had arrived here on a migratory whale, and perhaps was also the cause of many earthquakes. Hajime thought very hard about whether they should run or fight, and he guessed that they wouldn't be able to escape from this monster. And besides, he had lost too much blood. Holding his bloody hand, he thought that a long fight was not an option for him, and he needed to attack the monster with one blow and defeat it. Hajime charged with adrenaline and with an evil smile shouted that everything was so perfect and his blood was gushing like from a waterfall. Lowering his whole hand and concentrating all his strength on it, he activated his bloody battle ability. It was an ability obtained by defeating the boss in the dungeon. The more blood Hajime lost, the greater the increase in physical strength. The monster, noticing Hajime, also attacked him directly, but Hajime managed to jump away in time. Hajime grabbed the skin of the monster that wanted to go into the ground with one hand, angrily saying that he would not escape. And gathering all his strength in his hand, Hajime pulled the monster's head out of the ground to the surface. The monster couldn't resist and involuntarily went outside right to Hajime. And at that moment, Hajime let go of it and hit the monster on the head with one hand, completely destroying it. Everyone stood silently, fearing Hajime's power and just watching. Hajime stood in one place with the dead monster, and after catching his breath, he sighed, saying that he almost died, but the deed was done. Hajime himself was scared of such monsters and calmed himself down. Everyone approached Hajime in surprise, asking about his hand, and the ringing of all these voices echoed throughout Mount Kunami. Hajime's severed hand was bleeding, and Ian, afraid to touch his hand, asked Hajime if he was okay. Hajime irritably told everyone not to say anything. Lily stood nearby and watched Hajime in shock. Lily thought that it was all her fault, because Hajime had lost one of his arms while protecting Lily. Hajime noticed Lily standing nearby, covering her face with her hands and crying from her thoughts. Hajime was in pain from his wounds and told everyone that he was running low on blood and had a lot to say, but first, they had to return to the village. In the evening, already in the village, Olivia and the parents of the missing stood and waited for news from Hajime. And suddenly, they saw Hajime and the others in the distance and were shocked. They all asked Hajime about his hand. The next day, Hajime woke up in the village hospital. Sitting up on his bed, he looked around and asked himself where he was. Suddenly, noticing an open window, he approached it. Hajime remembered that he was in the infirmary and that last night was very noisy for him. Hajime said to himself while realizing that his left arm had been eaten by a monster. And after thinking about it for a while, he wanted to eat something. Hajime went down to the first floor and smelled the smell of delicious food. He followed the smell of delicious food. Meanwhile, Olivia was sitting in a room where in the middle of the room there was some kind of magical thing in the form of a box with a pipe lying on top. This thing asked Olivia that a white silver-ranked adventurer had lost an arm in battle, to which Olivia responded in agreement, confirming this. The thing also asked her what she was thinking. Olivia felt a little ashamed of this. The thing continued saying that the power of white silver is invaluable to the Adventurers Guild. In order to ensure the longevity of their adventurers, they must carefully study the contents of the quests given out, and if circumstances permit, to prioritize his treatment as much as possible. Olivia told him that she understood everything and they ended their conversation. Olivia was leaving the room very sadly, and Hajime suddenly appeared in front of her with a sandwich in his mouth and coffee in his hands. Hajime, not expecting her, asked her if it was possibly her food and apologized for it, saying that he was terribly hungry. Olivia bit her lips, holding back tensely, and bowed to Hajime, asking for his forgiveness. Olivia tensely babbled that she didn't expect there to be two semi-disaster class monsters, and all of this was due to her lack of information-gathering skills. She also suggested that he do anything to make up for his guilt. Hajime couldn't stand it any longer and told her to look at him. Olivia stood up straight and looked at him, and suddenly Hajime placed one hand on her chest area. Not expecting this, Olivia became very embarrassed, but did not say anything to him. Hajime laughed, saying that he could do something like that with his right hand, so it was all good. Olivia, angry, wanted to hit him, but held back, remembering that he was injured. Then, very shyly, she suggested to him that if he liked it, he could touch it a little. Hajime thought for a moment and told her that her breasts were too small to suggest such a thing. Then Olivia, unable to bear it, slapped him in the face, and she said that he could just rest upstairs and left. After some time, Yan's parents came to Hajime, thanking him and telling him that if Hajime needed anything, he could contact them. After all the meetings, Hajime lay on his bed, irritated, saying that all the people were coming to him without stopping. He also irritably wondered where Lily was and what she was doing. Then at that moment, Anya came to him asking about his health. Hajime sat on his bed and smiled, recognizing Anya. Anya asked him very worriedly if it was true that he had lost his arm. Hajime replied with a smile that his wound had healed, but he still didn't have enough blood, so he was told to rest some more. Suddenly, a big old man appeared behind Anya. The old man took off his hat and told Hajime that he had not seen him since he first arrived in the village, and the old man thanked him for those village youths. Hajime laughed kindly, saying that they all lived in the same village. The old man laughed too and sat down next to Hajime's bed, and the chair beneath him creaked from his heavy weight. Then, paying no attention to anything, he suggested getting down to business. The old man said that Hajime had lost his arm and he wanted to talk about replacing it with an artificial one. The old man asked Hajime if he knew anyone who could make such a thing. Hajime replied that there was one craftsman in the town he used to live in, and it wasn't like he knew him well. The old man, understanding his words, said that daily maintenance of an artificial hand is important for an adventurer, so just in case, such a person would be useful. The old man told him that he was mainly involved in mechanics and had experience with artificial arms and legs, and offered Hajime his service. Anya happily told the old man that he should let him do it. Anya praised her old man and his skills to Hajime. Hajime awkwardly asked the old man how much it would cost. The old man thought for a moment and said that the Gildan villagers had already paid for him. Taking advantage of this moment, Hajime said that he was counting on him. Bowing, the old man agreed with a smile and said that he would leave him and left the room. Hajime felt uneasy thinking that he was the leader of the dwarves and did not doubt his skills. Anya happily said that the old man would do everything good for him and offered Hajime her help. Hajime told her that he didn't need anything like that. Then, looking out the window, Hajime noticed Lily hiding behind a tree. Hajime called Lily from the window and asked her why she had not visited him. Lily did not answer and was ashamed of her actions. Hatame Anya appeared from the window and she also called Lily. Noticing this, Lily quickly ran away. Hajime was surprised and angry that she ran away, because he protected her, lost his arm, and this is what he got in return. Anya stood up for Lily, saying that anyone would have run away. Hajime was surprised and asked Anya why. Anya told him that it was obvious, because she thought that she was the one at fault, and Hajime would no longer be able to be an adventurer. Hajime thought for a moment and asked Anya what the so-called maiden's heart was, to which Anya replied in denial, and said that it was just common sense. Hajime scratched his head, saying that he could still be an adventurer, and then suggested Anya to go outside. Anya asked him where they were going, to which Hajime replied that they were going to rehabilitate themselves. After some time in the eastern plains of Lana, Hajime carried Lily on his shoulder and dragged her back. Lily furiously asked Hajime what he was doing and said that he needed to rest. Anya also agreed with Lily's words. Lily, already crying, said that they should go back and said that slimes would suddenly appear in front of them. Then Hajime stopped in front of a large tree and said irritably that they were there. Hajime put Lily down and told everyone that they had to pick Yorgul fruit today. Louis looked at a large, tall tree and cried, telling Hajime that he wouldn't be able to climb trees like that anymore. Hajime became a little angry at her words and told Lily to look at him carefully. Hajime started to climb the tree with one hand. Lily and Anya started to scream and worry about him. But after Hajime climbed a tree, he smiled and said that it was indeed a little different. But it was still as easy as pie for Hajime. Hajime looked at Lily, but she still had her face covered with her hands and was crying because of Hajime. Hajime sighed tiredly and looked at the horizon. Then he started his own conversation, saying that Lily was right and he had a lot of things he wanted to tell her, but he was bad at long conversations, so he wanted to tell her one thing. Hajime looked at Lily and said with a smile that he was glad that Lily was okay. Lily became embarrassed by these words and began to cry even more. Lily stood before him, resolutely with tears in her eyes, and promised Hajime that she would definitely become strong enough to take care of Hajime. Anya also promised that she would also become stronger and give him an allowance. Hajime smiled at his words and told them while lighting a cigarette that he would wait for them without any hope. Upon returning, Hajime was shouted at a lot because of his antics.